What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto became the secret fantasy of every Hokage in history? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful cretin. The history of the shinobi world was manipulated by one being, the embodiment of Otsutsuki Kagaya, the progenitor of Chakra and unknown queen of the dragon race. Black Zetsu set out to free his mother from the sealed prison. Her two sons, Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Otsutsuki Hamura, put her in. Both Hagoromo and Hamura were descendants of the mythical race of dragons. One decision changed everything. Instead of teaching ninjutsu, Black Zetsu taught Indra a different way to use chakra. Instead of developing ninjutsu, Indra developed mystical magic. It required one to use chakra, or as Indra dubbed it, life force, to convert the existing charged particles, or lightning, moisture, or water, and shadows, or darkness, and manipulate them to certain degrees. In response, Asura developed solar magic that allowed one to manipulate existing heat, or fire, air, or wind, and minerals, or earth, thanks to weapons the Sage of Six Paths left behind. Despite the two brothers dying in their battle to be their father's rightful heir, they had children that continued their feud. Thanks to Black Zetsu's meddling, the entire history of the world has changed. Humans evolved and became something different. The introduction to life force sped things up, so to speak. The dragon blood within the Otsutsuki clan spread and gave birth to different races. First came the Phi, or the Senju clan. They seemed to have a connection to the earth thanks to their use of solar magic and their sentient weapons. Many clans were made consisting of Phi blood or characteristics. These clans were, but weren't limited to, Aburame, Akamichi, Sarutobi, and Uzumaki. Second came the Trolls, or the Uchiha clan. They were held as the most plentiful and advanced of the clans, races. Their cybernetic eyes, known as the Sharingan, could predict movement, see life force, copy certain magic, and there were rumors of a more advanced version. Many clans were made of troll blood or characteristics. These clans were, but weren't limited to, Hyuga, with their cybernetic eyes called the Byagon, Yamanaka, and Kurama. Next came the Lycan, or Inuzuka clan, who were literally one with their Ninken. They were known to adopt bestial forms when provoked. Next were the Fiends, or Kagaya clan. Their bones could literally drain the life force out of you. Next were the Witches, Warlocks, or the Yotsuki clan. Their skin, due to their usage of mystical magic, turned various shades of gray. Clans with witch, warlock blood or characteristics were, but weren't limited to, Hitaki, Hagoromo, Nara, Shimaru, and Namikaze. Despite the differences he made, Black Zetsu still managed to manipulate history to his design. His greatest achievement was manipulating the king of trolls, Uchiha Madara. That manipulation led to a spiral of war, death, and despair that went on for many years. One thing Black Zetsu never thought of was what would his meddling truly mean for his plans to resurrect his mother. What would replacing ninjutsu with magic and chakra with life force? All events in the canon Naruto are still in effect. Black Zetsu manipulates the same people, only difference is their races. It was an average day in Konohagakure, the first unified village. It housed many different people of all kinds of races. It fostered the will of fire, philosophy and togetherness. It was home to Phi, trolls, Lycans, and witches, warlocks. The leader of Konoha was none other than Sarutobi Hiruzen, third Hokage. Forced out of retirement after the Kyuubi, the embodiment of hatred, broke free from its previous abomination, basically a Jinchuriki, and ran amok in the village. The death toll was high, but it was only thanks to the sacrifice of Namikaze Minato, the fourth Hokage, that they survived at all. The third Hokage sighed deeply. His bug-like wings hung low on the floor. Their usual chirper beat was gone. He robotically listened to the Anbu who read him the reports. He stopped listening when he heard his beloved Bawako was killed. She had filled his aged heart with such joy, too bad they were just distant memories at that point. He had to take the mantle of Hokage once again and he didn't know if he could. He was old, easily in his hundreds, yes I am being literal, and wanted to retire and become a simple advisor. To add on to his worries, he had to decide what should be done with Minato and Uzumaki Kushina's newborn son, Uzumaki Naruto. The boy had his father's sun-kissed spiky hair, but inherited his mother's peachy skin. His pair of 4 wings were small, but would no doubt beat strongly one day. He was not the first to be born of 2 different races, but what made him special was he was the newest abomination for the Kyuubi. Each abomination of a Biju had an unique ability or abilities depending on their Biju. It was too early to know what the boy would be capable of, but Hiruzen knew he was destined for greatness. The 3rd Hokage endured the report and dismissed his Anbu to gather the council. He had to get a perspective of the damage and what could be done to save face. Once the council was gathered, the 3rd Hokage looked around at those present. In the Shinobi Council you had Hyuga Hiyashi. He had reddish skin, small pointy ears, and the Byakugan inactive, but still clear as day. He had long brown hair done in a sophisticated manner with dignified robes. There was Aburame Shibi, dressed in dark garb with 4 wings, currently at rest. There was Inuzuka Sume, with her ninkin, Kuromaru. She was a feral-looking woman with a mane of hair, the telltale Inuzuka marks on her cheeks, and sharp eyes. There was Yamanaka Inoichi, with reddish skin, rounded ears, blonde hair in a ponytail, and blue eyes. There was Akamichi Choza, with sturdy wings to carry his weight. There was Nara Shikaku, with his signature pineapple hairstyle, steel gray skin, and scar. There was Uchiha Fugaku, with his reddish skin, large pointy ears, and black coal cybernetic eyes. Next came his advisors, his old teammates. If he were honest, 2 of them were irrelevant and only one really mattered in the fact he was a real pain in the ass. Shimaru Danzo, with his deep gray skin and heavily bandaged body. He was given the moniker the darkness of the world for good reason. Hiruzen called the meeting to begin and listened intently to each clan's report. It seemed the Hitaki clan was hit heavily by the Kyuubi attack, along with the Kurama and Shimura. The losses for all 3 were easily in the 75%. The Nara lost around 28%, the Akamichi around 30% due to them being the ones to engage the Kyuubi with taijutsu. The Yamanaka lost 15%. The Inuzuka lost 20%, the Hyuga lost 10%, the Sarutobi lost 40%, that hurt the 3rd deeply. The Uchiha only lost 5%, which caused a lot of suspicion, but it was put to the side. It would take years to recover, not to mention so many orphans to take care of. Hokage-sama, is that who I think it is? Sume asked the question everyone wanted answered. Most, if not all of the clan leaders knew Minato, either personally or as a respected leader. They knew he had a thing for the red-haired Uzumaki, and the baby before them was the perfect combination of the 2. Then again, they didn't need to know the man to know this was his son. Sume could smell the similarities, though there was a strong scent of fox, which got her thinking. Hiyashi could see the similarities in the boy's life force with that of both Minato and Kushina. Shikaku didn't need to use mystical lightning magic to charge his brain to figure it out. Everyone else just assumed. I don't see a point in hiding it from the council. This is Uzumaki Naruto, son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. He is also the abomination of the Kyuubi no Yoko. I feel it is my responsibility to tell you a secret held from you for most, if not all, of your lives. The 3rd Hokage stated. Everyone was shocked. What secret could have been hidden from such seasoned warriors? Uzumaki Kushina was the previous abomination for the Kyuubi. It is a well-kept secret that female abominations are at their weakest during childbirth. According to the 4th, just before he died, a masked troll somehow managed to get past Anbu guards, and separate Kushina from Minato, who was busy trying to keep the charm imprisoning the Kyuubi active and stable. He then broke the charm, and managed to control the Kyuubi for a time, until Minato severed the link and recaptured the Kyuubi at the cost of his life. The 3rd Hokage explained. Sume seemed to take it the hardest, with Hiyashi a close second. Sume was Kushina's rival, friend. How could she have known Kushina for all those years and not know she had to suffer the torment of being an abomination? There was an uproar among the council. Mainly about the masked troll and if the Uchiha were to blame. They did lose less out of the attack, and only one troll has ever been recorded controlling the Kyuubi. Fugaku insisted his clan were not behind any of it, and the 3rd believed him. He cautioned everyone from allowing emotions to sway them. They all lost loved ones and hadn't had time to grieve. I am sure this is unnecessary, but I would rather be safe than sorry. Everything learned today is an S-rank matter and falls under Hokage clearance only. I will also make a decree later today to all of Konoha. I will announce Naruto as the abomination of the Kyuubi and decree that no one can kill, maim, or harm Naruto out of petty revenge. He is a hero and I will stand by him. The third Hokage stated. He rocked the crying baby back to sleep, before he gave the floor to the council. Hokage-sama, is it really wise to tell the whole village? Hiyashi asked. The only reason Kushina had a life was because no one knew of her status. It was no secret abominations were feared at best, hated and demonized at worst. With all the loss from the attack still fresh, it was like throwing oil on a fire. Yes, it is. I am not arrogant nor deluded enough to believe we can keep this a secret from the village. They have a right to know. By not telling them about Kushina we left ourselves open. We could have had more guards, been more prepared, but that is behind us. Obviously, I can't allow a single clan to adopt the child. He plays too big of role in the village as a whole to only swear allegiance to a single clan. With that being said, I won't object to all the clans helping him in their own way. The third Hokage said slyly. He knew he couldn't just adopt the boy out of all the orphans this disaster gave birth to. It would lead to too many questions and he still needed to have a separate meeting with the financial department and other departments vital to rebuilding his great village. The other clan leaders caught wind of his veiled invitation. Naruto was the closest thing to royalty in Konoha next to Senju Tsunade, the Uchiha, and the Hyuga. The Namikaze clan were a fearsome clan of witch, warlock warriors who specialized in using mystical lightning magic. Minato being the most infamous with his ability to achieve hyperspeed. It was a feat only he achieved to this day. The Uzumaki were also a fearsome clan, who specialized in using solar wind magic and creating spells for various tasks. From barrage, attack, barricade, defense, and supplemental. Both clans were almost eradicated by the joint efforts Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and Kirigakure. The Namikaze and Uzumaki numbers are rumor at best, but one fact was that Konoha had a member of both clans in their village. With that taken care of, the third Hokage ended the meeting and told them to gather their clansmen for the announcement. Naruto's lineage was under Hokage clearance. Any who spoke of it to anyone besides him would meet a swift death should word get out. Hiruzen sighed deeply for the umpteenth time that day. He placed Naruto in the hands of a trusted nurse and went to prepare himself. The announcement went as he had expected. The fourth may have grown up during a warring period, but Hiruzen grew up through all three. While the fourth held hope and believed in his people to see Naruto for what he truly was, the third knew enough about the world to know things were not that simple. He could explain to the people about the complexity of the charm keeping the Kyuubi at bay, but it didn't sway the people. Perhaps the death of his wife and son on the same day had a greater toll than he thought? Once the death threats were silenced by a display of Hiruzen's killing intent, in the form of a raging fire, he explained the simple fact that killing Naruto would release the Kyuubi upon them. That quieted most of the villagers. The decree to not harm Naruto was widely accepted after that. The final decree caused more uproar. It was forbidden to tell anyone in Naruto's age group or with the current rank of genin about his status. Those who bitched were reminded that they should be happy they were alive and mourn those they lost. After the announcement there was a universal feeling of despair and lamenting throughout the village. Many children cried and lives were irreversibly destroyed in a single moment. The third began the tiring job of running a hidden village. He was determined to keep busy to stave off the loneliness and bitterness he felt towards the world. He would not allow this to destroy him. His wings beat a little and get just a spark of their glow back. 8 years wasn't much time in the grand scheme of things, but to Sarutobi Hiruzen, it was an eternity. He was 8 years older and 8 years grayer. Still, it wasn't all bad. Konoha was recovering nicely. Infrastructural speaking of course, their weakened state was no secret to the rest of the world. Kumogakure saw it as the perfect chance to wage war against them. To Kumo's shock, Konoha was still more than strong enough to defend. Hoping to put a stop to the fighting, the third opened up negotiations for peace between their villages. Too bad Kumo decided to spit in his face with what was dubbed the Hyuga affair. Their head warrior used the signing of the peace treaty as a guise to take the Hyuga heiress, Hinata, a mere 4-year-old at the time. Then Kumo had the balls to demand they be compensated when the Uchiha police arrested him. The head warrior was found dead in his cell. Cause of death was, I shit you not, electrocution. It was a well-known fact that the Hyuga, despite being trolls, could use mystical lightning magic and did in a deadly way. Still, no one would own up to the murder, and it wasn't like they could mind dive the entire Hyuga clan. Reed didn't care enough to. So they didn't send Kumo a body and the fighting continued. Sarutobi Hiruzen was having none of their shit. He truly wished for peace, but he was no pushover. A couple months of him personally slaughtering a few squads of Kumo warriors and even a battle with the Hachibi Abomination caused Kumo to back off in their demands. The third showed why he was known as the Professor and took Kumo to school. By keeping the Hyuga affair quiet from the rest of the world, Konoha gained a rather shaky peace between their two villages. Not to mention a few ryo and some scrolls on mystical lightning magic. After all, who would want to do business with a village who takes little children in the guise of a peace treaty? Still, the constant battles were taking a toll on the wizened Phi. It had been 4 years. 4 years after that he thought he could rest and enjoy the peace he fought so hard for. That peace lasted 2 months. One of his most loyal trolls, Uchiha Itachi, informed him of a planned coup d'état orchestrated by the Uchiha clan leader Fugaku. Their numbers were rumors, but the third knew this was a serious threat. No one liked fighting a troll, especially not an Uchiha. From the stories his sensei, Senju Hashirama, spoke of when he was drinking away his woes, it was truly a terrifying experience. Hashirama never fully recovered from the battle, and many believed it was what led to the great man's death and caused the First World War. The third knew not all trolls were bad though. Committing genocide on a clan was also highly frowned upon by other clans. It would also not look good for Konoha's troll inhabitants if a clan of trolls were eradicated. He tried for peace, even tried to offer the Uchiha more land, more ryo, and more influence. It seemed to work, but that was just hopeful thinking. Many of the higher-ups, those with council influence, openly showed their distrust of the Uchiha. This distrust from the higher-ups bled into the village, and soon the Uchiha were seen as oppressors rather than guardians. Hiruzen knew he couldn't allow the Uchiha to start a civil war, but he couldn't just kill them all. The third Hokage used a secret form of communication, red-summoned monkeys, to alert the council, minus Fugaku, of a secret meeting. There he informed them of the possible coup d'état. The clans agreed that the rebels needed to be taken care of. While Hiruzen and the clans tried to come up with a plan, Danzo had other plans. Itachi, a longtime double agent, was given an ultimatum: allow the Uchiha to go through with their coup d'état or end it. Itachi chose the latter and ended up killing all Uchiha Chunin and higher with the help of a mystery troll that Danzo seemed to know. Hiruzen was greatly enraged by Danzo's actions. Despite the results succeeding in solving the problem, the third was no fool. He sensed foul play, so he ended Danzo's route by cutting off their head and burning the seeds. The head was Danzo's funds, both known and shadow within Konoha. The seeds were the orphans. Danzo and all his associates were barred from adopting. Hiruzen knew it only delayed him at best, but he showed he could be just as big a pain in the ass as Danzo could. Most children aged 12 and younger were spared, along with the civilian members of the Uchiha with no training or Sharingan. Among the survivors was Itachi's younger brother, Sasuke. The small red-skinned troll was left with the truth literally Tsukiyomi into his brain. He saw his brother kill his parents over and over again, and he heard his words to them and theirs back. Was it just part of the illusion, or was it true? Sasuke knew too much that he understood. Itachi, while grief-stricken, wanted his brother to know the truth. He wanted Sasuke to understand his actions, but knew he deserved to be punished. So he used the Tsukiyomi to show his younger brother his memories leading up to the murder of his parents. Days, weeks, maybe even months before the Uchiha clan downfall. It was too much for his 8-year-old mind to handle. He went into a coma and hadn't woken up yet. So no one knew what Itachi showed Sasuke, but the young survivor himself. The third Hokage sighed deeply. He slouched in his chair with a heavy heart. Normally there were many different secretaries at their desks sorting through the insane amounts of paperwork that came in and out of his office. That day it was empty. Not even his private Anbu were in the room. Hiruzen showed his mastery over solar wind magic and literally soundproofed the room in preparation for his incoming guest. What he would tell them would no doubt work their world, but it needed to be done. The sooner the better, and by someone of sound mind. In walked an 8-year-old Uzumaki Naruto. He was an average height for a fi his age. Naruto had peachy skin, 6 whisker marks on his cheeks, had like a sunrise over the horizon, deep blue eyes and 4 strong wings. "Old man, my ninja, you wanted to talk to me?" Hiruzen chuckled in annoyance. "I have told you countless times, Naruto. I am not a ninja, I am a warrior. Ninjas wouldn't go around spewing fire, conjuring windstorms, or traveling underground. That is far too loud and flashy. Hell, you could even call me a wizard." The third Hokage said with a chuckle. "Call it my verbal tick, old man. So what's up, why did you soundproof the place?" Naruto asked. The 8-year-old wasn't a genius by any means, but he wasn't a fucking moron. His entire life was a lonely experience. No one would give him the time of day. They either outright ignored him, openly sneered at him, or were too afraid to be near him. That left Naruto a lot of alone time. Naruto spent his time trying to learn solar magic. No one at the orphanage paid him much attention, so he would sometimes venture into the training grounds of the village. At first, the warriors would stop their spars and escorted him back to the orphanage. Too interested in solar magic to care, Naruto began to spy on them without them knowing. It was hard at first, but his curiosity won over the warriors' concern for him. It was hard, because the warriors didn't rely on chance and hand signs to use solar magic. Most Fi were capable of using solar magic on their own, but their sentient weapons acted as a medium that amplified their magic. With enough life force, gained from years of battle experience, one could perform powerful magic without their weapons nearby or even on hand. Naruto clearly lacked a medium, so he decided to try to learn as much as he could. He hated reading, not because he was stupid, but because it would put him to sleep. He found most authors who made these scrolls were overly complicated and drawn out. He figured he would just wing it and see what happened. He was only a year into his training, but he awakened his life force and learned he had an affinity for solar wind magic. He couldn't do much besides detect other solar wind charms in his area. He was proud of his wind area of effect, which allowed him to currently detect other solar magic charms. The third could only chuckle. He hadn't even been paired with a sentient weapon and yet had a decent grip on solar wind magic. "I am impressed you noticed my soundproofing charms. Don't insult me, old man. I may not be strong enough to take that hat from you, but I'm close. Pretty soon you and everyone else will be calling me Hokage-sama. Until then, let's get down to business," Naruto said with a foxy grin. The third Hokage sighed. He truly hoped Naruto kept his sunny disposition. It brightened his heart to see the little ball of sunshine. Telling him his status could destroy him. It could also awaken the Kyuubi if it wasn't already. "Naruto, do you know what an abomination is?" the third Hokage asked. Naruto shook his head no. People, who especially hated him, would call him monster brat, fox brat, but never abomination. An abomination is a person who has a biju sealed inside them. A biju is sentient life force given form. There are 9 of them, each one identified by the number of tails they bear. "Tell me, Naruto, what biju do you know of?" the third Hokage asked. He didn't want to just say, "Naruto, you're an abomination for the Kyuubi. Deal with it." He had to handle this delicately. "That's easy. The Kyuubi no Yoko. Pretty hard to not know about the walking disaster that almost destroyed our village on my birthday. Weird how I was born the same day the Kyuubi attacked. Wait," Naruto thought hard on it. "I must have defeated the Kyuubi. It makes perfect sense. The day I was born, the fourth must have sacrificed his life to hold the Kyuubi back, and I must have used some super awesome spell to seal the Kyuubi inside myself." Naruto theorized. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the famed professor, expected many responses from the child. Sorrow, anger, despair, anything but what the boy actually said. He didn't know whether to be annoyed with his arrogance or impressed. He basically figured it out himself using the few clues he gave. "Well, technically it was the fourth who defeated the Kyuubi. You were a newborn, clearly it was impossible for you to know how to capture it and seal it within yourself. I am glad you figured it out though. The reason the villagers treat you so wrongly is because you are the abomination of the Kyuubi," the third Hokage explained. Naruto didn't know much about magic, but he trusted the fourth to know what he was doing. True, he was sore about his status and more than a little worried. "So what does being an abomination mean for me?" Naruto asked. He was an orphan, but he knew about the Uzumaki clan. The third would tell him stories of his mother and her clansmen he had the pleasure of knowing. It was one reason why Naruto wanted to learn solar wind magic. He knew the Uzumaki had larger life forces than most, longevity, and mastery of solar wind and charm magic. Aside from your larger than normal life force being multiplied by who knows how much as you grow, you have a higher regenerative ability than most. While you can't regrow a limb currently, it might not be out of the question when you're older. Other than that, only time will tell. One thing I want to make absolutely clear. Do not listen to the Kyuubi. I know I am probably wasting my time, but let an old man hold on to hope. If, when it tries to contact you, you come to me immediately. The third demanded. Naruto gulped, sensing the seriousness of the third Hokage. The blonde Fai nodded his understanding. Good. I didn't invite you here just to tell you about your burden. I wanted to personally tell you that you will be attending the academy starting next week. I thought we could celebrate the news at Ichiraku Ramen. The third said with a smile. Naruto couldn't contain his excitement. The third walked, with Naruto in tow, out of his office and building. When they were outside in the crisp heat of Konoha, Hiruzen put Naruto on his shoulders, and used solar wind soar spells to take them high into the sky. They flew until they saw the ramen stand and landed outside the stand. The third pulled back the curtains and entered with Naruto hopping on a stall. What up, what up, what up, OMI, old man Ichiraku. The owner of the ramen stand looked from the kitchen and barked with laughter. Good ol' Naruto-kun. Ayame-chan, it's your little brother. Tucci said. The ramen chef was a Fai who only used the best ingredients in his dishes. He would admit it to no one, but he added solar earth magically grown ingredients in his dishes as opposed to the cheaper and faster normally grown ones. Ayame, a cheerful Fai with brown hair and eyes, buzzed out of the back. She zipped over to Naruto, gave him a big hug, which the younger Fai gladly returned. Naruto-kun, y'all little squirt, what can we get you today? Oh hello, Hokage-sama. Ayame said with a bow. The third chuckled and waved her off. I'll have you know I am average size. Anyway, I want a large serving of miso ramen with roasted pork fillet and keep 'em coming. Ayame chuckled, so the usual, of course. She tossed her notepad in the air mockingly. When Naruto's food came, he ate with wild abandon. The third Hokage ate a bowl of beef ramen with dignity. The ramen waitress listened to Naruto rant about entering the academy and how awesome it would be to learn solar magic. It was common for the two to talk over ramen. When they were done, the third paid for their meals and took Naruto back to the orphanage. Afterwards he went to his office. Naruto was immediately led to his room and locked inside. He knew he was an abomination, but that didn't excuse the villagers' treatment of him. If it were him, he wouldn't care. Then again, he couldn't hold people to the same standard he held for himself. If they didn't like him, that was their problem, not his. Naruto went into his secret compartment and took out one of the many gifts he would receive on his birthday. It happened to be a scroll on trap making and how to escape certain kinds of traps. Naruto easily picked the lock and walked out the orphanage. He went to the troll district to where the Uchiha used to train. He figured since the clan's downfall a few months earlier no one would bother him. He installed it and set himself in it. The trap was a solar fire trap that hung a person over a roaring fire by a rope that was slowly burning. You had to use solar wind magic without igniting the flames to escape. The young Uzumaki tried and failed to escape in time. He ended up using too much solar wind magic and got burned for it. It was an old Uzumaki training method. You could only try it once a day for obvious reasons. With that being a bust, Naruto sat down and tried to think. He decided on practicing his accuracy with kunai and shuriken. He wanted to wait until he had the basics down before he tried adding solar wind magic to it. He practiced for a few hours until it was time for dinner. He went back to the orphanage and ate alone. After that, he went back to the Uchiha training ground. Naruto was sitting down and tried to meditate. It was insanely hard for him, what with his hyperactivity. He knew he needed to learn how to meditate to get better control of his life force and thus solar wind magic. He learned that if it was dense enough, you could see life force when it was being used for mystical or solar magic. In Naruto's case, his life force was immense and extremely dense. Just gathering it was enough to see it. Naruto was surprised he could see the green waves of solar wind magic. He wasn't even trying to make it visible. He experimented with spreading his life force through the air and basically extending his AoE, but only a few feet around him. Meanwhile, the third Hokage was busy delegating the flow of paperwork in his office. He signed all the relevant documents that needed his attention and passed the irrelevant bullshit to his secretaries. Suddenly one of the medical nin came into his office. He informed the third Hokage that Uchiha Sasuke had awakened from his 3-month coma. The third made his way to the hospital and went to Sasuke's room. The young heir to the Uchiha clan simply waited on the old Hokage. Sasuke didn't know how to feel, what to think, or who to trust. All he knew was he had an ambition in life. He would restore his clan and bring them to greater glory than ever before. He would also punish the people responsible for the death of his parents, but first came meeting the Hokage. Sasuke was young, only 8 years old, but trolls weren't held as being natural-born geniuses for nothing. He knew he wasn't supposed to know about the coup d'état, and if the darkness of the world discovered, he knew he would join his clan. Sasuke missed his parents greatly, but 3 months in Tsukiyomi was more than enough time to grieve. He had to ensure the Uchiha survived and showed Konoha they could overcome the curse of hatred his brother told him about. There was a loud part of him that wanted to hate Konoha. The Uchiha were just in their feelings of being oppressed and rejected by the village they helped found. He would simply wait and see how he felt. The third Hokage walked in and gave the Uchiha a sorrowful smile. Named after the third's own father, Hiruzen felt some guilt about Sasuke. If only he had shown more initiative, maybe Itachi wouldn't have to endure such a burden. After Sasuke told the third and Danzo about the events as he remembered them, the third asked how Sasuke was feeling. Sasuke decided to play his part and yelled and cursed his brother's name. Doing so caused a pain in his heart, but he ignored it. Saddened by his answer, the third allowed Sasuke to leave the hospital after they were done with all the tests. Sasuke made his way back to the Troll district. He walked past the Yamanaka and Hyuga districts and felt rage at how his clan was shoved to the back of the village. They could be probably monitored that way. While walking through the empty district, Sasuke saw the phantoms of his fallen clansmen. Their smiling faces now a haunting memory. One smile, no more like a grin, came to mind. It was a grin Shisui would give when he was feeling particularly mischievous. It was the only sign you got before Shisui would place you in an illusion too real to tell the difference. All of the Uchiha hated the face, seeing as it became their unofficial symbol. The infamous troll face illusion. While Sasuke was walking home, he heard something. He knew he shouldn't hear anything in the empty district. Yet he knew he heard the sounds of training. He followed it to its source and was beyond pissed at what he saw. Some little Phi urchin was using his clan's training ground. "What do you think you're doing, Yadobi?" Sasuke yelled. Naruto stopped his training and glared at the little troll. "I'm training, duh. I didn't think anyone would be here," Naruto said with a shrug. He was tired from training anyway. He made off to leave, but Sasuke was having none of that. "You can't just stroll onto private property and do as you please. I bet if it were the Hyuga, or the Sarutobi, you wouldn't dare step foot on their land." Sasuke lashed out. He didn't really know the kid, but the Phi Wings was all he needed to know. The Phi and the trolls always feuded. He felt his clan meant nothing to the village and Trollkind was under attack by the Phi. "Ninja please. I'd pee in the Hyuga's Foden and take a poop on the Monkey King Enma statue in Sarutobi's front lawn," Naruto said dismissively. That honestly shocked Sasuke. Was the Phi serious? He could understand the Hyuga, but the Sarutobi were well-known Phi. Didn't the Phi boy care about that? "You're bluffing," Sasuke said. "Tisk, ye of little faith. Follow me, troll," Naruto said. "My name is Uchiha Sasuke. Man, you trolls sure do like to feel special. My name is Uchiha Sasuke." Just Sasuke would have been fine, Naruto said while walking to the Hyuga district. Whatever, Dobi," Sasuke grumbled. They walked to the Hyuga district and it only then occurred to Sasuke he had no idea how the Phi boy would get inside. "Time to prove why I am the best. After this, you will know the name, Uzumaki Naruto. In that case full name is necessary. Now be my distraction." Naruto explained before he channeled his solar wind magic into a gust of green wind. It caught Sasuke and blew him over the walls and he crashed in a heap inside the district. I hate phase, the Hyuga were swift to capture him, but strangely missed Naruto. The blonde Faiz snuck to the center garden, where the fountain was, and took a piss into the fountain. A scream could be heard and Naruto went pale when he saw a little Hyuga troll girl staring in shock. Her skin was pink and her Byakugan was lavender in color. He pulled up his pants and bolted out of the district. A second later, a furious Hiashi gave chase to both Sasuke and Naruto. It was only thanks to Naruto channeling solar wind magic into his legs, giving them a boost in agility, that they managed to get away. That and Hiashi was too pissed to think of channeling mystical lightning magic into his legs to enhance his agility. I can't believe you did that, Naruto? Sasuke panted. They found themselves deep in the forest outside the village gates. Naruto was on the ground trying to recover his life force. Channeling it into the legs and feet was extremely taxing, but it was needed. I told you, ninja. I have not yet begun to fight, Naruto said. He recovered soon enough and they entered the village again. They had to shake quite a few Hyuga. It wasn't they could hide from the all-seeing Byakugan. They were just too slick for the stiff Hyuga to capture. Soon the Hyuga decided it wasn't worth the continued embarrassment and gave up. Sasuke was mind blown. They made their way to the Sarutobi district. It was much more lax than the Hyuga, with a few summoned monkeys roaming the grounds. Naruto walked right in and climbed the Monkey King, Enma statue. Attention all monkeys and the poop-throwing dummies they call summoners. I am your king now. With that being said, Naruto pulled down his pants and took a shit on top of Enma's stone head. The monkeys and Sasuke died lying. Naruto pulled up his pants and bolted. Sasuke ran the opposite way, but made a mental note to find the Phi boy. Uzumaki Naruto made a lasting impression. Naruto ran back to the orphanage and wiped himself. He laid low for a few days to let tempers simmer. The third honestly found it hilarious. His old sentient weapon, Monkey King, Enma was not amused. When he felt it was safe, Naruto cruised through Konoha. He was feeling pretty good about himself. He walked to the Uchiha training ground to continue training. Waiting for him was none other than Sasuke. I thought you would never stop hiding. For the new Monkey King, you sure seem real scared of the trolls. The Hyuga are nothing compared to the Uchiha, Sasuke said. He didn't really buy his own product, but felt like bluffing the blonde. Ninja, Naruto ain't scared of nobody. Especially not some cheating trolls. Naruto retorted. Sasuke grinned in a troll-like manner. It's not cheating if you live to talk about it. All people are jealous of the Sharingan and for good reason. Not my fault I was born awesome. Tisk, ninja please. I am way more awesome than you. I'm so awesome that the only reason you're remotely awesome is because I exist. You will forever be second best, troll. Naruto declared. That pissed the Uchiha off. I am the descendant of dragons. You are a little fairy boy. Fairy boy? Why I have half a mind to beat you senseless. Naruto declared. The two 8-year-olds glared each other down. They both saw something in their exchange, understanding. They both ended up laughing over it all. I never did get to say what you did last we met was the most awesome thing I have seen. You didn't discriminate between the races. You didn't see race or clan name. It's kind of cool, Sasuke said. Naruto chuckled like a dork. Yeah well I am a pretty cool kid. I mean look at me. Who could resist? Naruto asked idly. Sasuke gave him a blank look. Dobi. The two toddlers ended up training together at the Uchiha training grounds. Sasuke even gave Naruto some new kunai and shuriken and pointers on accuracy. Sasuke was far better at throwing weapons than Naruto was. Though his Sharingan code was inactive, his cybernetic eyes were still better and helped him with his accuracy. When it came to stamina and life force, Naruto was a tank. He just did not stop. It was almost monstrous. It was nighttime in Konoha and the two toddlers lied on the ground, looking up at the starry sky. I wonder if our parents are up there, watching over us. Sasuke was shocked Naruto would say something like that. I heard about your parents from the old man. That sucks. I didn't know my parents, but I like to believe they wouldn't leave me alone if they were alive. All I have is hope really. Naruto said solemnly. Sasuke looked at the crestfallen Phi with deep understanding. He lost his parents, but at least he got to experience their love. Naruto didn't get that. In fact, his clan was all but eradicated before he was born. Sasuke had a few survivors to bond with and help start over his clan. Don't worry about it, Dobi. I'm sure they're in the Pure Land looking at us with pride. All we can do is make them more proud. Sasuke said, surprising himself. Before meeting Naruto, he was ready to start making plans for another coup d'état. Naruto changed all that. Maybe, just maybe, things could work out. The Fai and Troll youths spent the week mostly training at the Uchiha training grounds. Sasuke thought the Uzumaki training methods were for crazy people. You had a choice between fire, wind, or earth traps. So basically, did you want to be roasted, cut up, or buried alive? Fai, mostly the Uzumaki, were stamina freaks. They had bodies made to last. Trolls relied on their eyes and their wit. Sasuke preferred to read and apply what he learned. Naruto felt obligated to share some of his gifts with Sasuke. He didn't know if they would be helpful, since Sasuke needed a medium before he could use either solar or mystical magic. Fai were naturally wired for solar magic. Fai tended to violently or fatally reject mystical magic mediums. That didn't stop someone from giving Naruto scrolls on both areas. He long since made his own copies, so he let Sasuke have what he called the boring editions. Sasuke had access to the fabled Naka Shrine. It held all the Uchiha clan's secrets, including its long list of acquired magical abilities. The trolls are most infamous for taking solar fire magic from the Fai and using it to a greater effect than the Fai could. At least Uchiha Madara could make that claim. Still, Sasuke appreciated the scrolls. Sasuke focused mostly on upgrading his eyes. He had the tools and even the knowledge to do so. He just lacked the experience needed. Naruto thought it was both weird and gross watching Sasuke literally work on his own eyes. His face would be eyeless and Sasuke still was able to accurately work. The day finally came. The academy was a fucking huge building located at the base of the Hokage mountain. When I say huge, I mean skyscraper huge. It was the breeding grounds for Konoha's future warriors after all. Naruto met Sasuke at the Uchiha district and they walked to the academy hand in hand. PFT, yeah right. Naruto and Sasuke laughed at the mere idea of such foolishness. They did walk to the academy together, but Sasuke was nibbling on a tomato and Naruto was looking at him like he was insane. Fresh veggies are disgusting, Naruto said, turning green. Sasuke made a show of eating the tomato and showing the blonde Fai the chewed remains. Naruto particularly puked and swore revenge. When they arrived, they saw hundreds of children from ages 5 to 10 and their parents standing outside the doors. Man, this year has a big turnout, Naruto said. He didn't even know there were that many people in the village. Sasuke just scoffed. Please, this is average. When my brother entered the academy there were twice as many people. They were technically at war at the time though, Sasuke stated. All chatter ended when the third Hokage gave his speech. He informed everyone of the aptitude tests required and gave a basic rundown of what were dubbed admission requirements. 1. Love the village and hope to help preserve peace and prosperity. 2. Have a mind that will not yield, able to endure hard training and work. 3. Be healthy in mind and body. Simple enough for even a child to understand. Love village, work hard, and stay fit. The aptitude test consisted of a written test designed to determine what your strengths and weaknesses were, a physical test, and assigning a medium depending on your race and if you met the requirements. The children were gathered inside and led to rooms based on last name. Sasuke and Naruto were sitting next to each other. Hey, Dobi, I bet you bombed the written test, Sasuke said with a grin. First off, if you give me the troll face again I will punch you in the face. Second, man, you're right. Looking at the test, Naruto started to panic. Sasuke glanced at his test and instantly noticed the illusion over the paper. He sighed and sent a spark of life force to dispel it. Naruto was still freaking out. For God's sake, would you shut up, runt? I am trying to sleep and you're embarrassing yourself, but more importantly me. There is an illusion on the test, you idiot. A deep and menacing voice roared inside Naruto's head. Naruto jumped, figuring who the voice belonged to. I see you understand your place, runt. Keep the respect coming, I eat that shit up. Kyuubi chuckled darkly. He was weakened far more than it cared to admit. That filthy warlock, known as the fourth Hokage, had taken literally half of its life force. It was literally getting cut in half and expecting your victim to die a slow death. Well, the great Kyuubi would not die by the hands of some puny warlock or any of the races his father spawned. It would take time, but he would regain his power. He just had to wait. I see you got jokes, Kyuubi. Be careful, don't want to chalk on a hairball. Naruto joked, not being able to help himself. Ha, you're thinking of the Nibby. Its hairballs could lay waste to your whole village. So nice try, Runt. I have existed for centuries. You don't have jokes I can't turn against you. So keep spinning your web, little spider. I will trap you in it then crush you. The Kyuubi stated. That honestly hurt Naruto a little. The blonde Phi dispelled the illusion and found the actual test easy enough. He couldn't answer all the questions, but more than enough to feel confident. Once they finished the written test, they were led to the basement level of the academy. They were impressed by the size of the training facility located beneath the academy. Everyone could fit easily and it was wide and high enough to test for life force and any adverse effects that could occur. They were each tested in various physical aptitude tests. When it was all said and done, Naruto was a few marks beneath Sasuke. The Uchiha rubbed it in his face constantly. After that test, those who passed who led to a certain floor depending on their race. Naruto was gathered with the other Phi on the 5th floor. The room was pretty Spartan except the shelves and racks of sentient weapons of all around the room. The children all ran around trying to find their partner. In the Phi culture, one doesn't just pick a weapon. The weapon literally chose you. Back during the First World War, the sentient weapons would literally kill you if you weren't a match. It was only thanks to the second Hokage that Konoha had developed a way to counter that. Most sentient weapons nowadays had their full power sealed. Only their true wielder could bring out their full power. Getting rejected no longer killed you, but it did hurt. Naruto was no different from the other kids. He went for the biggest, most badass looking sword he could find. Too bad for him, he got rejected left and right. While some lucky kids got paired with swords, lances, bows, etc., Naruto couldn't get a single weapon to accept him. Naruto was ready to give up and then he saw a pair of daggers. They weren't badass looking or intimidating at all. Man, with my luck, I bet these puny little knives are my sentient weapon. Naruto grumbled. To his shock, the daggers sighed heavily. You're the 300th child to diss me today. Are you sad? Naruto asked the pair of daggers. Why wouldn't I be? No one ever wants me. I have offered myself to so many warriors to be and not one has so much as looked my way. That hit home for the blonde Abomination. Don't beat yourself up too much. I know a thing or two about being ignored. How's about we see if I'm your true wielder? Naruto asked with a foxy grin. Really? You want me as your weapon? The pair of daggers asked. After years of collecting dust and watching others get chosen, was it finally its turn? You know it. With me as your wielder, you'll be the most infamous sentient weapon in all the elemental nations. Naruto boasted. He went to pick up the pair of daggers, afraid he might get rejected again. He effortlessly picked up the daggers and the strangest thing occurred. His already immense life force was amplified and literally exploded in a gust of green solar wind. The winds were accepted inside the daggers and the blades took on a green tint. I promise I won't let you down. I won't stop until Soyokaze is a name feared by our enemies. Soyokaze declared with the utmost determination. Naruto cheered and left since the testing was over and he would be starting classes tomorrow. He met Sasuke outside the academy and the two decided to test their new mediums. Sasuke may have been a troll, but all trolls were capable of using either solar or mystical magic. Sasuke was upset he wasn't paired with a sentient weapon and thus followed the tradition of using solar fire magic. Look at it this way, you're your own person now. No one can say, Sasuke is just like all the Uchiha trolls with their stolen solar fire magic. Naruto tried to cheer him up. Sasuke thought about that. It was a tradition for all Uchiha to be paired with a sentient weapon to obtain solar magic. Sasuke would be the first to be attuned to mystical magic. He was taken to the Phi weapon vault, but was rejected by all the weapons. He only went into the room with the magical crystals out of curiosity. It shocked everyone when a piece of hematite crystal reacted to him. They tested him and found that he was attuned to mystical magic. They infused the hematite into his body and that was that. Hematite, huh? Is that like a black color? Man, you found a crystal as black as your soul. Freaky, Naruto said with a shiver. I'll have you know, hematite is a grounding and protective stone that energizes and vitalizes the body. It can help with optimism, determination, courage, self-esteem, and willpower. Sasuke defended. Man, you sound like you're straight out of a textbook. Naruto chuckled. The two youths went on to train using their mediums. Unknown to them, a little pink-skinned Hyuga watched them from a distance. It was the first day of the academy and Naruto couldn't contain his excitement. After training with Sasuke, Naruto informed the third about the Kyuubi's awakening. It was decided the village spellmaster, the fabled Jiraiya of the legendary Sand Senshi, 3 warriors, would take a look at the spell keeping the Kyuubi at bay. It would take time though, so Naruto was cautioned to ignore the titanic fox. He spent last night trying and failing to sleep due to his excitement. He ended up doing light physical exercise until he passed out. When Naruto woke up, he waited on the other orphans to shower before he took his. They always made him go last so he never got hot water. It was extremely petty of them, but Naruto didn't care. He showered and made sure he was ready. He made sure his pouch was equipped with everything he needed and left for the academy. When he arrived he found he was the third person to arrive. The first was Sasuke and the other caused Naruto to swear to himself. "Ah man, I just had to be put in the same class as her." Naruto groaned mentally. The other classmate was the same Hyuga girl he pretty much flashed his junk to. She had fair pink skin, shoulder-length, dark blue, hair styled in a hime-cut, wore a light lavender, long-sleeved kimono-style blouse with vertical lines, tied with a dark purple obi around her waist, and a pair of short dark navy shorts with thigh-high stockings and black high-heeled boots. Man, even her clothes scream, "I'm too good for you." Naruto sighed mentally. He highly doubted she would want to be his friend, especially after he pissed in her fountain. With that, the blonde Abomination sat next to Sasuke and annoyed him with name-calling. Hinata looked at the Phi boy who had been on her mind a lot since he relieved himself in her family fountain. It was the bravest thing she had ever witnessed. True, it was childish, but who else could claim what he did and not pay for it with a gentle fist-induced coma? Hinata hadn't known the boy for long, a few days tops. She was aware of the general dislike from the populace towards him, but it didn't seem to bring him down. Perhaps if she shadowed him more, she would find the key to his strength. Strength, something her clan valued and she lacked. She sighed deeply when she thought of all her flaws and weaknesses. The academy was her last chance to prove she wasn't weak and useless. Soon more children piled into the class. Some were quiet, others, not so much. "Eat it, Ino pig. I beat you to the—" a pink-haired Phi screamed before she stopped in her tracks. "Oh God, it's Sasuke-kun. In my class, the power of love is real." While ignoring Naruto, who wouldn't shut up about ramen and how much trolls suck, Sasuke shivered. It was the only warning he got, before the room was filled with kids. The girls, from Phi to witch to troll, all fawned over him. Sasuke just sighed, seeing how his brother told him about girls known as fangirls. Naruto was annoyed. Not that the girls were paying so much attention to Sasuke, he figured he just placed them under some illusion like the troll he was. No, Naruto was annoyed because he was being ignored, again. He figured he had a shot with kids around his age, but every time he tried to talk to someone they would ignore him or tell him to go away. Only people left to talk to was some quiet Aburame kid, that one Hyuga girl, an Akamichi, a Nara, and an Inuzuka. Taking a moment to observe them, Naruto realized they were all clan heirs. The Aburame was dressed in a lot of gray and the only skin he showed was his face and that was barely. Unlike other Phi, the Aburame had beetle-like wings. The Akamichi was well-rounded with equally adjusted wings. His attire was ridiculous, to the point Naruto was embarrassed for him. The Nara had light gray skin, pineapple hairstyle, and was currently asleep. The Inuzuka was short and ninkin, but sported everything else typical of a lichen. He was bestial looking alright. Deciding to talk to the Nara first, Naruto went over to the boy and touched him. He was surprised when his AoE cancelled out sparks of mystical lightning magic. "Man, what a drag. I was just about to solve something real important. You threw off my groove?" The Nara drawled. The young Nara liked to sleep, but what many didn't know was the reason he loved sleep was because he could use his magic to control his dreams. By controlling the charged particles in his brain during sleep, he could control what images he saw, quality of dreams, etc. Looked like you were sleeping to me. Anyway, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. Future Hokage. Naruto cheered. Ah yes. And Uzumaki, one of the great Phi clans, almost eradicated to extinction during the Third World War. The name is Shikamaru. Future Cloud Watcher and Doer of Nothing. Shikamaru stated. Naruto laughed and shook the Nara's hand. With that over, Shikamaru went back to dreaming. Shika is always like that, but if you could control your dreams you would sleep all the time too. My name is Akamichi Choji. Choji introduced and even offered the blonde Abomination some snacks. Naruto knew enough about the Akamichi to know you never turn down food from them. It was highly disrespectful, so Naruto accepted the snack and thanked the friendly Akamichi. If you want, I know this really good ramen place. We could go have a bowl there, my treat. Choji was truly touched. Not only did the blonde not make fun of him for being bigger, he offered to buy him food. Deal. This is the start of a beautiful friendship, Naruto. Naruto's heart filled with joy. He had made 2 friends, 3 if Sasuke was included. That was the most he had ever had in his young life. He tried to go back to his seat, but noticed the pink-haired Phi girl in it. That's my seat. Not anymore. Get lost already. So Sasuke-kun, what do you like to do with your free time? I like to read, do my hair. The Phi girl went on and on. Sasuke groaned and got out of his seat. Come on, Dobi. There's some seats by that Hyuga girl up there. Hinata let out an eep and went from pink to red real quick. She tried to hide within her blouse but failed miserably. Naruto shrugged and the 2 youths went to sit next to Hinata. Sasuke sat in the corner so Hinata was in the middle of them. That way, none of the fangirls could sit next to him. The Hyuga girl didn't seem to be one of them, which was good in his book. Sasuke had other things to worry about than girls. There were older Uchiha left to worry about girls and rebuilding the clan. Both Naruto and Hinata were blushing from embarrassment. For once, Naruto honestly didn't know what to say. Should he apologize? No, what he did was hilarious and he wouldn't nor shouldn't feel sorry for being funny. He also didn't want to deny what he did. That would make him a coward. Still, he did flash her and that wasn't appropriate, even he knew that. So, Naruto started, hoping she said something. Maybe she would yell and call him a pervert, or hit him. Maybe she would cry. Ah man, that made him feel horrible. I'm sorry, Hinata said as softly as a mouse. To her surprise, Naruto heard her. Why are you sorry? It's not like you did anything to me to be sorry for. I should be the one saying sorry. Not for peeing in your fountain, that was funny. Well you know, Naruto said while scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Hinata's blush became several shades redder making her hot crimson. Whoa, your face is so red. Do you have a fever or something? Naruto asked. He absent-mindedly felt her forehead and poor Hinata couldn't take it anymore. She fainted and caused Naruto to panic. Sasuke laughed a genuine laugh. It was from the heart. He couldn't help it. That had to be the cutest thing he had seen in his young life. All the girls said, "Aw, what happened?" Naruto asked everyone. The girls just sighed and Sasuke laughed harder. Good old Dobi. I might tell you one day. I swear man, trolls are weird, Naruto said. Too bad Hinata chose then to come too. She didn't know why, but hearing him say that made her feel insecure about being a troll. It wasn't the first time someone made fun of her for being a troll. Calling her a cheater, weird eye, etc. It was always under their breath, but Hinata could read lips. Soon 2 seasoned warriors walked in. Good day class. I am Amino Uruka and this is my assistant, Mizuki. A Phi man with a scar across his nose said. His assistant, who scoffed at the mere notion, just smiled and waved. Naruto could instinctually tell it was forced. He could strangely feel the negative emotions rolling off him and just about anyone really. If he tried he could even feel positive emotions. Uruka went on to explain a few things about their future as warriors of the Hidden Leaf. First Uruka explained the ranks. Fresh warriors were literally fresh out of the academy and thus the lowest, the grunts so to speak. The seasoned warriors had a few years under their belts. They weren't the strongest, but they weren't the weakest either. Next came the elite warriors, who were generally the cream of the crop. They were usually war veterans or just plain badasses. The higher ranks depended on your village. Konoha had specialized warriors, or warriors with elite training in a certain field, but lacked the well-roundedness to be an elite. They had the Anbu Black Ops, who were generally above the elite even. The Black Ops only reported to the Hokage and were known to take the highest and deadliest missions. Next came the legendary warriors, the Sansenshi. Iruka explained they would spend the day learning about them and other important figures of Konohagakure. The kids groaned, but Iruka shut them down with the swiftness. The kids were shocked and terrified of the seasoned warrior. He instructed everyone to open their scrolls and apply life force to it. They did as instructed, though a lot of them needed help. When they all did, information appeared on the scrolls. We were fortunate enough that one of Jiraiya-sama's personal, recording toads, was able to witness the fabled battle between him and his teammates against Hanzo the Salamander. The toad then transferred the memories into a scroll and, after a few years, was able to make scrolls for others to see the battle. The kids were mesmerized by the thrilling battle. Jiraiya fought valiantly with his toads, using their oils to counteract Hanzo's poisons. Senju Tsunade became an instant role model for the young female warriors in training. She was scary strong, able to literally lift Hanzo's boss slug up and throw it. Her giant slug was also critical to their survival. Orochimaru showed why he was a genius. His use of snakes and solar wind magic was rivaled only by the infamous Uzumaki clan. Speaking of, Iruka said they had scrolls on Konoha's own bloody Crimson Phi, Uzumaki Kushina, battle against Kumogakure. He said he would show it another day. Naruto couldn't wait to see his mother in action. To have a moniker like Bloody Crimson Phi was awesome. Not as awesome as the Flash Phi, Namikaze Minato, but still. Despite the intensity and mastery they showed, Hanzo was too strong for the, at the time, young warriors. Still, Hanzo was so impressed he called them the legendary Sansenshi. Man, I don't think I would want to be famous for getting my butt kicked. Naruto whispered to Sasuke. Hinata giggled, which made Naruto smile. I agree. True, the Sansenshi are three of the best warriors to come out of Konoha, but Hanzo could have killed them. Forget being impressed, they showed that they were a threat. I would have ended the threat then and there, but alas. Pride is a deadly sin for a reason. Iruka went on to explain how life force worked. Life force was a source of energy made up of physical energy, or the energy produced by your body naturally, in the cosmos, or the energy granted from celestial objects such as the sun, moon, etc. Emotions also played a part in life force, since it was able to either amplify or hamper your overall magic. That was why it was important to follow these rules. A warrior must always put the mission first. A warrior must never show their tears. A warrior must see the hidden meanings within the hidden meanings. A warrior must follow their commander's instructions. A warrior must prepare before it is too late to. A warrior must never show any weakness. With that being said, I want you all to understand these rules are just a guideline. They are not infallible, and it is up to each of you to develop your own warrior's code and rules. Iruka explained. Naruto thought hard about the rules and what he wanted his own warrior code to be. He couldn't figure it out just yet, but he wouldn't give up until he did. Then he would find something else to achieve. They went on to teach the kids about the core curriculum they would undergo. They would study the basics such as reading, writing, mathematics, science, geography, etc. They were given a break for lunch. The girls all swarmed Sasuke and formed a perimeter around him too big for Naruto to get to. Hey, Naruto, right? Choji and I were going to the roof to eat and cloud gaze. Wanna come? You can come too, Hinata. Shikamaru asked dryly. It didn't matter one way or another if they came. If they did, the Nara potentially gained two friends, one a fellow heir. If not, it still looked good for him. Thank you, but I wouldn't want to be a bother, Hinata said meekly. Naruto was having none of that. Don't be silly. The more the merry, I always say, Naruto said. He knew the only way to beat the awkwardness between him and the Hyuga girl was to attack it head on. I can't say no now. He's practically insisting I go. What if I say something wrong or they find out I'm weak and not good enough to be with them? Hinata lamented to herself. She summoned all the courage she could muster and nodded sheepishly. That's a yes in my book. To the roof, Naruto cheered. He ran out the room and up the stairs like a sonic boom. He even left a small breeze behind. Well, at least he isn't boring. Shikamaru, Choji, and a giggling Hinata went to eat lunch on the roof at a more ginger pace. Once on the roof, the group of kids took out their meals. Shikamaru had a bento box of his favorite food, mackerel and kelp. He was ready to smile and silently thank his mother until he saw the boiled eggs with a note. Next time, don't be lazy and do your chores. Love your mother. Man, women are a real drag. Especially witches. Then again, it doesn't matter what the race. The female gender is just a major drag. Shikamaru sighed. He gave the eggs to Choji, who had a bunch of junk food for lunch. Hinata had a simple and elegant bento box. Naruto was embarrassed since he didn't have anything. Hinata noticed and smiled. I have an extra box if you want it. Naruto-kun. Hinata almost whispered. Naruto couldn't believe it. He was more than willing to wait until after the academy to eat. It wasn't like the orphanage would give him a lunch. He gladly accepted the box and ate it swiftly. Is this what a home-cooked meal tastes like? Naruto asked in amazement. You've never had a home-cooked meal? Choji asked in shock. How could anyone not have had a home-cooked meal? A meal made with love and seemed tastier than any dish out there. Naruto just shrugged. I am an orphan. I am lucky to get an extra serving of what the orphanage cook calls a meal. Just all the food groups mashed together into a nasty paste. Naruto said, turning pale just thinking of it. The clan heirs felt sympathy for the blonde Phi. They each had a family, hell, a whole clan. They were surrounded by people who loved them, well tolerated them in Hinata's case, while Naruto was ignored if he were lucky. I could bring you a bento box if you wouldn't mind, Hinata said shyly. Deal. I guess I can just treat you and Choji to Ichiraku ramen today after the academy to make us even. Naruto said. The four kids chatted idly amongst each other. Naruto and Choji were the most verbal of the group. They talked adamantly about food of various kinds. Naruto really loved the snack daifuku. It could have been because the third treated him to it a few times. Choji loved all snacks, he couldn't pick a favorite. Shikamaru just cloud-gazed and Hinata just sat there shyly. She didn't know what to do, so she just went into her habit of doing the shy finger, or twiddling her two forefingers together. Little did she know, her nervousness manifested in the form of sparks that grew stronger the more she did the shy finger. Whoa, look at Hinata go. Let's use our free time to train. Naruto cheered. He pulled out Soyokaze, who yawned. After Naruto and her bonded, the wind spirit had to rest. Turned out Naruto had a shit ton of life force. That's not including the Kyuubi. Soyokaze had access to Naruto's memories and vice versa. She knew about the giant kitsune and was waiting for it to contact her. Anyway, Naruto's overabundance of life force was a lot to take in. She was surprised she wasn't destroyed by the sheer force of it all. Luckily she survived, but was really tired. Come on, Soyokaze, we're supposed to be the ultimate tag team here. Let's get to training. Naruto whined. Hinata stopped her fidgeting and the sparks stopped. Hinata didn't consider her habit training, but the traces of charged particles dancing across her hands proved otherwise. Usually, gathering even a small amount was taxing, but she didn't even notice when she did it that way. She did the shy finger, and was pleasantly surprised when she saw sparks gathering. Soyokaze sighed, and began to channel Naruto's life force and amplify it into a more refined state. A gentle breeze gathered around the blonde Phi. Naruto expanded his AoE further thanks to Soyokaze. Choji felt left out, so he put on a pair of gauntlets. Woo, it's about time you brought me out. So whose head are we caving in? The sentient weapon asked. Choji just sighed, it's just training, Akuji. Oh, well that's cool too. Gotta keep sharp after all. Just punch me on something and I'll do the rest. Akuji instructed. Choji did as told and punched Akuji into the roof. The gauntlets used the minerals in the roof to refine itself and grow stronger with each punch. Shikamaru passively channeled charged particles in his brain while he watched the clouds drift by. Soon the bell rang signaling lunch was over. Everyone stopped training and went back to class. Naruto and Choji put their sentient weapons away as they were not permitted in class and only allowed during spars or training. They spent the rest of the day watching some of Jiraiya's battles alongside the other two Senshi in the Second World War. The girls really inspired to be like Tsunade, while Naruto seemed to gravitate towards Jiraiya and his devastating wide-scale attacks. Sasuke favored Orochimaru, who was as stealthy as a cloak and as deadly as a dagger. After they watched a few battles, Iruka led everyone outside to finish the day with a spar. The first year of the academy was learning basics. They needed to know how to read, write, spell, do math, know the basic geography of their areas, etc. In order to foster strong bodies throughout their tenure in the academy, daily spars were required. Naruto didn't pay too much attention to most of the spars. Shino easily dominated his opponent without even using his Kakaichu. Choji beat his opponent with a lot of difficulty. Shikamaru just quit. Naruto cheered Hinata on when she was chosen to spar against the pink-haired Phi, Haruno Sakura. Hinata didn't want to hurt the Phi girl, but her fear of being seen as weak by Naruto easily outwon her meekness. Sakura and Hinata performed the seal of confirmation and sprung into battle. Hinata activated her Byakugan, her once big lavender eyes focused into small violet dots, and used the charged particles she gathered early to decent effect. She gained a small boost in her ability. It was enough to cross the distance between them and get within Sakura's defenses. Hinata used her gentle fist to strike Sakura in key pressure point nodes used to release life force. Sakura tried to defend, but all that did was give Hinata new targets. Thanks to her Byakugan, Hinata could see Sakura's pressure points in her arms. Hinata injected sparks of her life force, in the form of sharp needles, into Sakura's arms and rendered them useless. With her arms limp at her sides, Sakura was defenseless and forfeited just as Hinata was about to inject more of her life force into her. The two girls did the seal of reconciliation, though Sakura was a little reluctant and had to get the foreign life force painfully purged from her body. Naruto was ecstatic. He congratulated Hinata, who blushes several shades of red. Sakura was thoroughly embarrassed and in front of Sasuke no less. The other girls picked on her and the pink-haired girl cried. Inside her mind something was born. The Inuzuka dominated his opponent and proclaimed himself the alpha of the class. Naruto rolled his eyes. A Yamanaka troll girl, with blonde hair in a ponytail stepped up to spar with a little Phi girl with purple hair. They did the seal of confirmation and ended the spar with the seal of reconciliation almost just as swiftly. The Yamanaka troll girl, named Ino, made short work of the Phi girl. Iruka had to stop the fight when Ino got a hold of the Phi girl's wings. Sakura watched with amazement. Ino fought with such confidence and bravery. After that, the battles were irrelevant. Naruto just groaned. That was until it was his turn. Uchiha Sasuke vs Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde Phi and Uchiha troll both smirked. It seems we were fated to battle, Uchiha Sparky. Naruto taunted. A tick mark appeared on the Uchiha troll's head, but he smirked trollishly. Let the history scrolls state that I won the first round, Dobi. Sasuke taunted back. Naruto pulled out Soyokaze, who was fully awake and ready for battle. Sasuke focused on the medium inside his body and channeled charged particles throughout his body. He got a good boost in his physical attributes. The two opposing forces did the seal of confirmation and Sasuke started things off by shooting towards Naruto at breakneck speeds. Naruto was honestly caught off guard by the speed, but his AoE shocked Sasuke even more. When the Uchiha troll stepped into it, his speed was drastically slowed down. Instead of appearing in front of Naruto in a burst of speed, Sasuke ended up almost falling to his knees a few feet away from the blonde Phi. Not looking a gift horse in the mouth, Naruto went to end the spar, but his swings were sloppy. Sasuke still had enough wits to dodge the poor swings. Sasuke realized his mistake. Wind beat lightning. By charging his body with charged particles, he effectively made his body vulnerable to wind-based magic. When cut off from its energy supply, the body goes through a form of withdrawal. Sasuke gained some distance from the blonde and tried to think of a solution. Luckily for Sasuke, Naruto didn't seem to know about the magic weaknesses. The blonde Phi didn't seem to try to extend his AoE and further trip him up. Soyokaze tried to tell Naruto, but the blonde was too arrogant to listen. He wanted to show off and show everyone he was worth noticing. Naruto channeled large amounts of life force into Soyokaze, who was forced to refine it into solar wind magic and unleash it as gusts of razor-sharp winds. Sasuke was hard-pressed to dodge the violent winds, even more so since it had the added effect of dispersing the charged particles in the area. Just when Sasuke thought he was going to be blown away, he noticed the clearly visible green wind spiraling around Naruto. It was like a wall of green wind, and that's when an idea hit him. He gathered what little charged particles he could and shot a spark of lightning at the grass near the wind wall. A small spark of fire swiftly ignited the wind wall in a burst of flames. Mizuki swiftly used mystical water magic to douse the flames and saved Naruto. The blonde Phi managed to get out of the inferno just in time, but he walked right into Sasuke's trap. The Uchiha troll punched Naruto in the gut with a super particle-charged blow. Traces of lightning entered Naruto's body and paralyzed him long enough for Sasuke to kill him, ending the spar. Iruka called for the two to perform the seal of reconciliation. Sasuke smirked his troll smirk and offered to perform the seal. Naruto was dejected. Soyokaze was scolding him for his arrogance and refusal to listen. She damn near demanded he accept and perform the seal of reconciliation. Naruto was sore and didn't want to, but a few cuts from Soyokaze made him cave. They performed the seal of reconciliation. "Looks like you owe me, Dobi," Sasuke said. "You know, it's really rude to insult someone you want something from. With that said, I guess I can give you a tomato from my garden," Naruto said. He sighed and just smiled. He had many more spars to learn from after all. The first day of the academy was over. All the girls, minus Hinata, tried to find Sasuke to ask him if he wanted to hang out. The Uchiha troll easily slipped the fangirls and met up with Naruto, Choji, Shikamaru, and Hinata at Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto was a Phi of his word and gave Sasuke not one, but 2 tomatoes. One he threw at the Uchiha troll's face, the other he let Sasuke eat. Ayame smiled and made sure her little brother's new friends enjoyed their visit. She chatted with each of them and got a read on their personalities so far. The Nara was as lazy as they came. The Akamichi was just as jolly as to be expected from a member of his clan. The Uchiha was actually rather polite and pleasant to talk to if you knew what to talk about. He clearly took being a warrior extremely serious. Ayame took a special interest in the Hyuga girl. Hinata was simply out elegant, but that was to be expected of the Hyuga heiress. What Ayame really liked was her interest in her little brother. They were too young to know it, but Hinata clearly had budding feelings for the blonde Phi. Hinata, in turn, liked Ayame. Naruto seemed rather close to the Phi teen girl and vice versa. Most people treated Naruto so wrongly in Hinata's eyes. It was refreshing to see the kindness their village was famous for directed to the forsaken hero. Soon it was time for the group to go their separate ways. They all agreed to meet up and train after the academy. Shikamaru, Choji, and Hinata just had to clear it with their parents. Naruto was on his way to the orphanage when Sasuke stopped him. "Why don't you just use one of the Uchiha clan houses? There are so many empty homes. It would be nice to see a little more life in the district again," Sasuke suggested. Naruto was almost moved to tears. "Is that allowed? What about the surviving Uchiha members? Tisk, they avoid the district at all costs. They think it is cursed and any Uchiha who lives there will be killed. They have blended in with the village for the most part, so it is still pretty much empty. Would be abandoned if not for me," Sasuke said bitterly. He didn't see those cowards as Uchiha. They were too scared of his brother to even live in the homes they grew up in. Homes their ancestors fought over and died for. But non-Uchihas are cool, right? Naruto asked warily. He wouldn't live in a haunted district. Sasuke just sighed. "Yeah, Dobi. You should be fine from the curse. Bet. We can train whenever we want this way." Naruto cheered. Sasuke sighed but smiled. So long as the blonde Phi stayed in a house far away from him, it could honestly work out. "Oh, I had better tell the old man I'm not going back to the orphanage. Not like anyone will miss me. This is awesome." Naruto just kept on cheering that day it seemed. "Is this old man the patriarch of the orphanage?" Sasuke asked. "Yeah right. That old bastard is the worst. I'm talking about old man Sarutobi. The clan head of the Sarutobi clan and the 3rd Hokage. People call him Sarutobi-sama, Hokage-sama, some even call him Hiruzen Dono. I just call him what he is, an old man," Naruto said nonchalantly. Sasuke was surprised at first, until he thought about it. The day he met the blonde Phi, he took a shit on the Sarutobi clan Monkey King, Enma statue and pissed in the Hyuga clan fountain. Calling the clan head and the current Hokage an old man was right up his alley. "You sure seem close to the Hokage?" Sasuke said. From Itachi's memories, he knew the Hokage wasn't directly involved in the Uchiha downfall, but he still didn't trust the Hokage. He felt the Hokage was an empty title and the true power was behind the council. The Hokage was in charge of the military, true, but the village itself seemed in the hands of others. The Uchiha downfall was the prime example. Danzo seemed set on collecting his clan's fabled Sharingan for himself. Itachi showed him that the old war hawk was in possession of Shisui's right eye. Sasuke didn't know the complete mechanics and specs of Shisui's Sharingan, but Itachi knew enough to estimate. Shisui was perhaps the biggest troll of all time. Shisui's Meginkyo Sharingan held what many believed to be the highest caliber of mystical darkness illusion magic. No one knew how the Meginkyo Sharingan granted the user control over both mystical and solar magic separately in either eye. What was known was that Shisui's illusion, the Kotoamatsukami, casts a powerful yet subtle illusion on the victim. Sasuke didn't know how it worked, but Shisui planned to use it to manipulate his father and the rebels from going through with the coup d'état. If not for Danzo, it may have succeeded. The two youths made their way to the academy where the administrative office was located. Many people thought the Hokage's residence, a manor for the Hokage, was actually where the Hokage did business, such as assigning missions and whatnot. That wasn't true. Naruto knew that from the many visits he paid the old man. The manor, dubbed the Hokage Tower, was more a symbol than anything. It was the biggest structure in the village to showcase the Hokage's reign over the village. Naruto spent the trip talking, mostly to distract both Sasuke and himself from the negativity the villagers directed at him. Too bad Sasuke was too perspective and noticed. Luckily the Uchiha troll chalked it up to the blonde five pulling one too many pranks. When they arrived, the secretary looked at Naruto dryly. "He's not in a meeting, but he is busy." "Then again, you probably don't care enough to stay and ask me." It was true. Naruto didn't even bother to stop. He was at least nice enough to say good afternoon. He entered the office and saw the third and his staff going through mountains of paperwork. "Ah, Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun. What brings you two here?" the third asked politely. He was just happy to have a break from the constant paperwork. Or at least, his corporeal clone was happy. The real Sarutobi Hiruzen was in a private training grounds, trying to keep his skills up to par. He knew the limited years of peace and old age took a toll on him. He wasn't the warrior supreme he once was, but he wasn't weak nor stupid. Tenzo and the two squads of Anbu assigned to help the third with his training learned that the hard way. Tenzo's solar earth wood magic paled in comparison to Hiruzen's sensei, Hashirama. "Hey old man, so listen, Sasuke offered to let me stay in one of the abandoned Uchiha houses and I just wanted to let you know so you can stop sending money to that dump," Naruto announced. The corporeal clone was honestly happy with the news. Naruto had a knack for bringing the best out of people. Perhaps he could save the young Uchiha troll from the curse of hatred. Though Sasuke was starting to see it less a curse and more a blessing. Let people hate him, he would turn that hate into motivation. "Well, there is clearly a lot of paperwork to fill out, but you let me worry about that. It technically belongs to Sasuke, so as long as he is alright with it, I don't see why not. Oh, and try to list to your sentient weapon more, Naruto-kun. It could end up saving your life," the third said, shocking the blonde Phi. "I knew someone was watching me. Stop it right now, ya old perv. I swear I will leak the unmentionable to the female population of Konoha," Naruto threatened. The third smirked. It was October 10th, 4 years into the future. It was a typical day weather-wise. Still nice and brisk, with the tree leaves turning various shades of red, yellow, and brown. Children of all kinds played in the many piles of leaves. Soon a team of genin would be assigned to clean them. Burn them with solar fire magic. Contrary to popular belief, there was no Kyuubi's Defeat Festival, where the village throws a big party in celebration of those who sacrificed their lives to defeat the Kyuubi. Most people went about their day as if it were any other day. Same vendors selling their goods, same people doing the same thing. It honestly wasn't that big of a deal. At least not to the populace of Konohagakure. To one Uzumaki Naruto, it was the biggest day of the year. He turned 12 that day. He had been in the academy for 4 long years and he was only halfway done. Still, it wasn't all bad. He had his friends to keep him from dying of boredom and keep his skills within the top of the class, physically speaking. He tanked at the academic side of the academy, but man, he killed at the warrior side. So much so that he was ranked within the top 10 of his class. The first year was all about learning how to write and whatnot. Naruto found that he enjoyed writing. Not the assignments, mind you, just writing in general. He would make little fanfictions of his life when he was bored in class. Iruka usually yelled at him, but the questions were so easy, Naruto didn't need to pay attention half the time. Naruto hated math, but Hinata and Shikamaru were a big help in that department. The second year was where Naruto shined. That year they started the combat training. They learned the basics of how to throw a punch, kick properly, etc. How to throw kunai and shurikens. They also awakened their life forces and began to learn about magical combat. All the Faes were paired with sentient weapons, if they hadn't been already. All the witches, warlocks were given their crystal mediums, along with any trolls who showed compatibility. Training in wielding sentient weapons was handled by an Anbu who used an illusion to hide any distinguishing features. It was really creepy how he was pretty much a ghost. He had this creepy, ghoul eye stare that just freaked you right the fuck out. The third year was more so an advanced version of year 2. Learn how to better bond with your sentient weapon, medium, and thus get better with life force. They also focused on either building up your reserves or building your control. When it came to reserves, it was ranked 1. Uzumaki Naruto, by an immense margin. In fact, Naruto was said to have more chakra than even Sarutobi Hiruzen did at his age. 2. Uchiha Sasuke. He had above average reserves easily. 3. Akamichi Choji. He had a little above average reserves due to his clan's ability to convert fat into chakra. Of course, Choji was nowhere near mastering that skill. 4. Nara Shikamaru. He had average reserves for a member of the Nara clan. 5. Inuzuka Kiba. He would have been higher, but Inuzukas shared chakra with their familiars. His familiar, Akamaru, was still a pup and needed the extra life force. The fourth year hurt Naruto's pride. He had the absolute worst control over his life force seen in the history of Konoha. No one had ever scored negatives in control. The only way to even get negatives is if you used life force while trying to control it. That meant it took extra life force just for him to try to control it. He didn't let that damper his friend's spirits. When it came to control, it was ranked 1. Hyuga Hinata, and strangely enough, Haruno Sakura were tied. They had precise control over their life force. The only reason they tied was because Hinata had more life force than Sakura, but not as precise control. It was a well-known fact that the more life force you had, the harder it was to control. 2. Nara Shikamaru. His clan skills required precise life force control. He only placed here by a few points. 3. Yamanaka Ino. Her clan skills, which included sensory abilities, also required precise control. 4. Aburame Shino. What he lacked in reserves, due to his Kikachi, he made up for with control. 5. Uchiha Sasuke. He wasn't a slouch in the control department. Had to beat Naruto in something. Only 4 more years to go. Man, why did that bastard, Itachi, have to go nuts and mess it up for the rest of us? Naruto sighed. It was officially declared at the end of the Third World War by the daimyos universally. By the end of the war, the winning daimyo, Fire, suggested an end to sending children to fight in wars and battles in general. So it was decided children would have to stay in the academy for 8 years, thus making the average and recommended genin age 16. Every village, after a few years, accepted this. Konohagakure and Kirigakure were the last 2 to finally adapt this into their academies. Kirigakure adapted it after Momochi Zabuza slaughtered an entire graduating class, without even being a student himself. Konohagakure after Itachi slaughtered more than half his clan in a single night. It was clear to everyone that giving children under the age of 12 untold power and authority probably wasn't the best idea. Stop bitching, Naruto. You need all the time you can get. 4 years and we're only 12.5% in sync with each other. How can we be the ultimate tag team if we can't work together? Soyokaze asked. Truth be told, she loved being Naruto's sentient weapon. After losing to Sasuke, the blonde Fai actually listened to her without complaint. Despite what Naruto thought, Soyokaze was really experienced, to the point she was first made when the Warring State period was hot and relevant. That meant the much more experienced Soyokaze had to make up for Naruto's lack of experience. When it came to Soyokaze synchronizing with Naruto, she was easily at 25%. She would have been higher, but the Kyuubi made things difficult. Luckily, the beast was asleep for most of these 4 years. It only stirred when she tried to get a feel for its life force. My bad, Soyo-an. An is the proper way to refer to one's own older sister. It's not easy shifting through all that life force. I can't tell where my own starts and ends thanks to the Kyuubi. Naruto sulked. It's cool. I like a challenge. So, how are we going to spend your big day? Soyokaze asked. She didn't want to give anything away. She could feel an all too familiar life force, viewing her wielder. Soyokaze found it cute. She didn't think Hinata was some crazy stalker who followed Naruto around everywhere hoping he noticed her. The Hyuga was pretty much a staple in Naruto's life. She had viewed Naruto dozens upon hundreds of times using her Byakugan during training, so Soyokaze always knew when the Hyuga girl was using her Byakugan on her partner. I'm probably just going to do what I do every year. Go to Ichiraku Ramen and eat until I hate myself, which never happens. So most likely until I pass out. Sounds great to me. Naruto cheered. Soyokaze giggled. Everything was going just as planned. Meanwhile, Sasuke and the rest of Naruto's friends, Shikamaru, Hinata, Choji, and an upperclassman they met in year 2, who was named Tenten, were planning a party for Naruto. Tenten was a Phi who held the record in accuracy with a perfect score. She also was the wielder of an unique sentient weapon. It was known as Kotai and it was capable of changing into any weapon. It was extremely picky about who wielded it, to the point the third was ready to place the weapon in his personal vault. Are you sure I can't just place him in an illusion? We all know he sucks at dispelling illusions and mine are second to none. Sasuke asked. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Naruto did suck at that. That would be mean, Sasuke. Plus Soyokaze-chan would easily dispel your illusions, she is used to them at this point. Hinata pointed out. Sasuke just growled. That damn sentient weapon was almost impossible to cast an illusion on. She noticed them immediately and dispelled them. Don't worry, Sasuke. The Ichirakus agreed to keep Naruto at the stand all day. We have all the time we need to execute the plan. Shikamaru ensured. They were ashamed to admit it, but the gang had never once celebrated Naruto's birthday. The blonde Phi didn't want anyone to be bothered with throwing a birthday party for him, so he never told them the day. Sasuke and Shikamaru tired to get it out of him, but the blonde Phi wouldn't budge. It was only thanks to Hinata they finally figured it out. The Hyuga spent a lot of time observing Naruto. Another fun fact about October 10th was that it was a health day at the academy. Naruto always skipped that day and no one, besides her, knew where to find him. When asked why he skipped, since his attendance otherwise was perfect, he just laughed it off. The first time was nothing, second a little weird, but the third and now fourth time? It didn't take a Nara to figure it out, though that didn't stop Shikamaru from putting it together. They surmised that Naruto had never had a birthday party and didn't want anyone to throw him one out of pity. They were currently in the Uchiha district really jazzing up the place. Tenten strung up orange ribbons and white streamers hanging from the roofs of houses. Choji took care of the food. The Akamichi always welcomed Naruto when the blonde Phi went over Choji's to train. Choza and his wife loved the blonde Phi's appetite, saying it rivaled their own, which was a big compliment. Hinata took care of the desserts. She had some of the branch chefs help her make a few different desserts, since Naruto hadn't tried that many. Shikamaru settled for just showing up, as did Sasuke. They each had a gift for the blonde Phi. Sasuke's gift was a sharpening tool made for sentient weapons. Naruto had mentioned needing a new one. Shikamaru's gift was a new type of flora for his collection, since Naruto had a green thumb. Choji's gift was a free all-you-can-eat voucher for any of the Akamichi restaurants. Hinata got him a sling holster for Soyokaze, since the blonde Phi tended to keep her in his pockets. Tenten's gift was over the top. She ended up turning one of the abandoned homes into a training dojo. It had practice dummies for combat training and targets for practicing throwing accuracy. She worked at a local warrior shop, so she sometimes got discounts or even free products if they were overstocked or weren't selling. Honestly, she had more dummies than she could keep at home. Their plan was simple. They would hang out with Naruto as if it were an ordinary day. He skipped class that day, so they had to wait until after the academy to set everything up. They still had to wait on a few things, so it was their job to keep Naruto busy. The gang left the Uchiha district and walked to eat Chiraku ramen. I'm so glad our Dobie is so predictable. Sasuke snickered. They found Naruto sitting at a booth eating his weight in miso ramen. They all sweat dropped and then chuckled, giggled. "Oh, what's up my ninjas?" Naruto asked, mouth full of ramen. Tenten growled, "What have I told you about talking with your mouth full?" Naruto swallowed his food, after chewing of course. "They're better, Ten-senpai?" Naruto asked. Tenten smiled, "Much better. I hope you got your fill. Since you skipped the academy, we're gonna have another Ten-senpai's crash course. Isn't that great?" Naruto went pale. The upperclassman was ruthless when it came to sentient weapon training. She was also skilled in side weapons, kunai, shuriken, fuma shuriken, etc. "You know, I think the Hokage needs me." "Yup, probably has a mission for me so. Stay breezy," Naruto says. He stealthily channeled solar wind magic into his legs and wings. When he said his spiel, he took off in a burst of speed. He left a small gust behind. "Oh no you don't," Tenten yelled. She pulled out a scroll and used her life force to unseal a ball and chain. She twirled it to get a feel for it and then lashed out and caught Naruto by the ankle. She smiled devilishly and swiftly wrapped Naruto in chains. Tenten slung the crying blonde Fai over her shoulder and walked to where she liked to train in the outskirts of Konohagakure. "It's agreed. Tenten-senpai is scary," Shikamaru said. Everyone agreed and followed the crazed Fai girl to a part of the village that was heavily forested. The trees were dense and blocked most of the sunlight. When they arrived, Tenten had finished hanging Naruto upside down from a tall tree limb. Learning to use your life force to anchor to surfaces was covered during the academy. Right after using life force to keep objects attached to you. "Alright, Naruto, you know the deal. Think fast," Tenten said. She unsealed a handful of kunai and threw them at Naruto. She even used her wings to kick up some wind to enhance their speeds. Naruto channeled solar wind magic into Soyokaze, who unleashed razor-sharp winds. The wind cut through the chains and even blew the kunai back. The blonde landed and immediately had to dodge an onslaught of precisely thrown shuriken. Naruto's AoE was pressed to the max. He had to keep it active to blow away the kunai. Just when Naruto thought about going on the offense, Tenten threw an explosive tagged kunai a few feet away from the AoE. The explosion caused a flame to ignite his AoE and moderately burned Naruto. At the last minute, Naruto pushed his AoE away and turned it off. The flames died out and Naruto growled in frustration. "Damn it, why does everyone turn my AoE against me?" Naruto yelled. Soyokaze sent a gentle breeze around Naruto to calm him down. Good thing too, Tenten threw another kunai aiming for him. The blonde Fai barely dodged, receiving a small cut on his cheek. The eerie thing was the cut perfectly lined up with his whisker mark. "We get it, you can throw stuff. No one cares. Throwing side weapons is irrelevant. Let's give the people a show," Kotai declared. Tenten growled at the sentient weapon, but drew him nonetheless. Kotai changed into a Nodaichi and Tenten rushed Naruto just as he activated his AoE. Tenten channeled solar wind magic into Kotai, increasing his sharpness tenfold. Naruto evaded Tenten's skillful slashes and stabs, but not without injury. Soyokaze turned Naruto's AoE into a sphere of wind. Tenten couldn't cut through the fierce winds. When she recoiled, Soyokaze dropped the wind barrier and Naruto rushed in and slashed at Tenten. Kotai changed into a shield and defended the bun-haired Fai. Naruto prepared to counter when Soyokaze warned him. A tendril of mystical darkness magic slinked across the ground towards him. "Shika with the assist?" Naruto said, shocked. During Ten-senpai's crash course, the others would join in. The whole point was to simulate an enemy attack with limited to no backup. Shikamaru usually didn't help at all. Deemed it too much of a drag. Naruto flew into the air and away from the shadow. He knew that even if he was in the air, if his shadow was captured it was over. The blonde kept his senses sharp. He extended them by adding life force to the air around him. He felt something enter his AoE at an alarming pace. It was Kotai in the form of a spear. Naruto flew out of the way and trapped Kotai in a wind sphere so Tenten couldn't equip him. Suddenly, Choji flew up and used his clan's secret skills to augment his hand to giant proportions and tried to swat Naruto like a bug. Yippee ki yay little fi. Akuji cheered. Naruto managed to escape most of the impact, but still got nicked. He was sent spinning and crashing into the ground. Tenten threw a kunai at the downed Abomination, but Hinata saved him by sending a spark of lightning at the side weapon. Alright, reinforcements arrived. I'm calling it quits for today, Tenten said with a tired sigh. The sun was just beginning to set. Naruto sighed. He really needed to work on being able to turn his AoE on and off at a moment's notice. Sasuke smirked. The rest of the party favors and guests should have arrived at the Uchiha district. Woo, good workout. I'm ready to go home and just chill for the rest of the day. Peace out, gang, Naruto said, ready to go home. Actually, Naruto-kun, we were wondering if we could spend some time with you today, Hinata said shyly. Oh, well, I can't have company today. I didn't clean up and the house is a mess. You never clean up. You've been whining about no one visiting you, so we're visiting you, Sasuke said. Naruto chuckled and rubbed his head sheepishly. They walked together to the Uchiha district, and when Naruto saw it he was shocked. Damn, Sparky. Someone trashed our district. The nerve of some people. Pranking me, Naruto yelled in fury. Everyone burst out laughing. This is only funny when I do it. That just made them laugh harder. Oh, Naruto-kun. No. You see, well, I did, but I told everyone. I mean, Hinata tried to say, but failed. She went from pink to red with the swiftness. What Hinata is trying to say is, happy birthday, Naruto, Shikamaru said calmly. With that, the rest of the gang all cheered a happy birthday to the shell-shocked blonde Fi. How did you find out? Naruto asked. He didn't know how to feel. He had always celebrated his friends' birthdays, but when it came to him, he just shrugged it off. Hell, he didn't even know his birthday until the old man told him when he turned 7. He did notice he got gifts on those days too. As far as a party goes, he had never had one. I kind of just figured it out. From your body language on this day for the past 4 years. And a few other context clues, Hinata said while doing her shy finger gesture. She had enough control to where she didn't generate sparks if she didn't want to. Naruto just looked at the Hyuga and chuckled. He should have known she would figure it out. Haha, little Naru-chan is about to cry, Soyokaze teased. Naruto tried to hide it, but the tears fell anyway. Shut up. The gang led Naruto to his own dojo. The blonde was floored. Was that what it felt like to celebrate your birthday with people you love? They didn't pity him, they really loved him. They loved Uzumaki Naruto. Will they love you when they discover you are my abomination? The Kyuubi chimed in. Soyokaze growled and used her connection with Naruto to drive the Kyuubi's will out. Naruto didn't let it spoil the mood. I thought you might like it. Now you have your own space for training. I even took it a step further, placed a few soundproofing spells using solar wind magic, Tenten said with a warm smile. Naruto walked around the renovated dojo and sent his life force through the limited space. He wanted this place to be his first beacon. Naruto was practicing a form of supersonic travel called a sonic boom. He was nowhere near even attempting it, but he knew he would need beacons to lock onto. Don't get too comfy. We have more to show. Choji cheered. You're just excited about the food. Don't say logical statements as if they were insults. Besides, can you smell that lovely aroma drifting through the air? Choji asked while sniffing. Shikamaru signed and led the charge to one of the bigger houses used for hosting events. When they stepped through the door, Naruto was bombarded by the various people shouting, "Happy birthday." Naruto couldn't believe so many people came to celebrate his big day. The third was here with smiles and gifts. Strangely enough, his favorite Anbu was present, the one who smelled of eggplants of all things. Choji's parents were there, along with Shikamaru's and even Ino and the Yamanaka clan head and his wife. To his utter shock, Hinata's little sister, Hanabi, had come. Fireworks-chan, so nice of you to join us peasants. Naruto clowned around. Well, fishcake, even as princesses had to dwell amongst the social outcasts to prove we are benevolent. Besides, I'm just here because Hinata-an insisted. So let's eat the cake she made. Hinata blushed and glared at her smirking little sister. Hanabi has spied on her big sister and her friends on more than one occasion. The younger Hyuga heiress considered it Byakugan training. Hanabi was polite and nice, but Naruto knew how to rile her up. He enjoyed teasing her and calling her fireworks, since it was what her name literally meant. She would counter with fish cake, knowing it annoyed him. They just started it to see who would crack first. That was 2 years ago. Naruto didn't know it, but before entering the academy, their father considered Hinata a failure. So much so, he left her in the care of one Yuhi Kurenai, who was also at the party. It was slow at first, but soon her father and the rest of the clan saw improvement. She was stuttering less and her skills greatly improved. There was no fear for either of them to be branded with the caged bird curse charm because they were girls. Traditionally, it was the men who started branch family members. The only pressure was to be the best heiress. Hinata had originally cracked under the pressure. Her kind and gentle nature, while inspiring to Hanabi, was frowned upon by the clan. The change all started when she entered the academy. She wouldn't tell their father, but she would dish it all to Hanabi. She went on about a blonde Phi, the very same one who had the gall to piss in their fountain. The stories would only get crazier as the days became weeks, then months and years. Soon Hanabi became curious and met Naruto herself. She told him he was lucky her sister liked him. Poor Naruto didn't understand and said he liked Hinata too just as the said Hyuga was entering the room. She of course fainted and Hanabi has held it over her ever since. Hanabi would watch them train and she saw a fierce warrioress. She encouraged Hinata to bring that to their spars. After 4 years of training with the blonde Phi and her other friends, Hinata managed to actually surprise Neji a few times. She hadn't defeated him yet though. Everyone went to get their fill of cake and food. Naruto was starving after that workout and tried all the various cakes. He would compliment Hinata on each one he tried. He found that he liked the ones with whipped cream and strawberries the most. Once the cake and food was digested, they moved on to presents. The third decided to go first. "Happy birthday, Naruto-kun. I want to be the first to say I am proud of you. Though you have areas you need to work on, you are a fine warrior in the making. I hope this gift will further your endeavors," the third said. He handed Naruto a scroll and told him to wait to open it. Next was Choji and his parents. "Now don't let that voucher go to waste, young man. I wouldn't want you to be malnourished. You were just a scrawny-looking thing all those years ago," Choji's mother said. Thanks to the Akamichis, Naruto didn't look like a starved child. He ate regularly, other than ramen, and was a nice height for his age. Only people his age taller were Sasuke and Shikamaru. Damn bastards always rubbed it in his face. Naruto promised he would use it soon. Up next was Shikamaru and his folks. Naruto's eyes sparkled at the beautiful flora. Shikamaru took the liberty to pot and soil the flora, so they sit it down somewhere safe. Next, Hanabi gave Naruto some fireworks with a cheeky smile. "I figured there was no better gift than my presence, both literally and figuratively," Hanabi stated. Naruto just chuckled dryly. "How can you even say such big words? Do you even know what they mean?" Naruto asked. "Do you?" Hanabi asked. "That's not the point. Just light up the stupid fireworks," Naruto said, annoyed. "We can do so later. Outside of course. Anyway, here Naruto-kun. I hope you like it," Hinata said, presenting him with her gift. Soyokaze squealed in delight. "I am going to be so snug in those. Not to mention you will look cool too, Naruto." Naruto accepted the new holsters and placed Soyokaze in them. She literally purred in delight. "Soyo-an loves it. Thanks a lot, Byaheim," Naruto said, hugging Hinata. Byaheim was short for Byakugan Princess. He really only called her that when she did something really awesome. Still, the pet name always made Hinata blush. Sasuke gave him his sharpening tool, which Soyokaze also loved. Ino gave Naruto some flowers from her shop. They were mostly for displaying. The Anbu gave Naruto a bunch of dog-themed gifts. From plush toys, to a nightcap, etc. "I didn't know what to get you. You use Soyokaze exclusively, rarely using side weapons, so getting you those would be pointless. I figured 12-year-olds like toys, live it up kid. Once you graduate it's all over for that kiddie shit." Naruto just sighed. The Anbu was way too serious. He needed to chill a bit. The last person to give him gifts wasn't physically there. "Naruto-kun, I didn't know you had a godfather," Hinata said, looking at all the gifts the mysterious man left. It was a bunch of toad-themed gifts. A bunch of toys, a nightcap, hell even a wallet. Naruto found the wallet was bursting with Ryo. It wasn't the first time his godfather sent gifts. Every year on his birthday, on July 10th, and on January 25th. His godfather would also send him allowances at the beginning of each month for expenses since he moved out of the orphanage. Yeah, I've never met the guy, but he was nice enough to set up an allowance for me that will last up until I graduate. Not to mention he paid for me to enroll and is decent enough to write me from time to time. Naruto said with a smile. Sure, his godfather sounded like a asshole in his letters, but he did express wanting to build a relationship in person when he had time and when Naruto graduated. Hinata smiled and they all partied in celebration. It was a day Naruto would never forget. It was also the first of many birthday parties to come. 4 years. To an adult that would be nothing more than 4 years added to their limited lifespans. To a seasoned warrior that was 4 lifetimes of battles, near deaths, and losses to bear. To Naruto, 4 years marked the true beginning of his journey. The fresh exams were finally near for his graduating class. The sheer hundreds of warriors and Amazons, as they later learned was the proper title for female warriors, that started out those 8 years ago had dwindled to a mere 101. Puberty was weird enough without throwing warrior training into the mix. Throw in a rather detailed-oriented explanation of the art of seduction, manipulation through magic. Needless to say, some innocence was lost. The once preteen gang of budding warriors, Amazons had blossomed into 16-year-olds on their way to adulthood. Their bodies having developed nicely thanks to their dedication to training. Come on, Ten-senpai. Tell us what the fresh exams are like. Naruto begged. He just had to know. Much of Naruto's core personality had not changed. He was still hyper and dense, but time with Shikamaru helped tailor that hyperactivity into critical thinking. What had changed was his height. He was the second tallest of his class, Sasuke being the tallest. Naruto wore a plain no-sleeve orange shirt with the Uzumaki symbol in blue on the front and chainmail. Over that he wore a closed black and burnt orange high-collar haori, held closed by a charm belt. There were holes to allow his wings to poke out. His once oval and closed wings had opened not too long ago. A major milestone for the Phi, seeing as his now yellow-feathered wings were fucking awesome. Naruto completed it with matching burnt orange pants, his holster on his left leg, and dark blue high-top warrior sandals. Soyokaze was resting in her holster at his hip. Their sync was at a solid 25%, which meant Soyokaze's experience bled into Naruto. His focus was enchanted greatly. On the flip side, Soyokaze was at 75% with Naruto. The Kyuubi still presented a problem. Sorry, Naruto. A part of becoming a fresh is to swear an oath not to tell potential warriors, Amazons what the fresh exams are like. Not to mention they change it up every year anyway. An Amazon is nothing if she cannot be held to her word. Tenten stated. The 17-year-old Amazon had blossomed marvelously. She was lithe and yet poised to kill. She wore her white and red outfit with pink flame accents on it. Her own bloomed wings were bat-like, symbolizing her affinity to solar fire magic, SFM. She also sported a charm belt, but with more charm scrolls than Naruto by 2, 6 in total. Kotai was well hidden, just how he liked it. Tenten had been accepted into the ranks a year prior. The fabled headband that bore the Konoha leaf symbol was proof of that. She also wore the warrior's silk, a special silk that allowed the wearer to completely control their attire with the added bonus of being able to absorb life force. She had been on missions and experienced the outside world. Much like a true senpai, she shared her experiences with them. She drove the importance of integrity. If you can't be held by your word, how can the client trust you not to stab him in the back should the mission go south? Was something she often quoted. Tenten was all about appearance and looking cool and professional, which made her sensei and teammate the perfect ironic twist. Naruto just grumbled, but then shrugged. It wasn't something he couldn't handle. The past 4 years saw his skills only improve. His control was still ranked low, but he used his limited control to great effect. To the point his AoE could not only be turned on and off within 3 seconds, but had developed 2 other abilities. The first was the ability to become a barrier of effect, or bow. It was able to repel things away from him as opposed to sensing things with his AoE. The second was the ability to turn his AoE into what he dubbed Armory in Effect or AIE. The AIE allowed him to turn his solar wind magic into various weapons, though he was currently limited to wind shuriken. Naruto had his AoE turned off so he could just enjoy the feeling of the day. The sun was shining brightly and the wind seemed to pick up that heat. Naruto was at the Dango shop, a rather popular shop that Naruto and his gang frequented. It wasn't Naruto's choice, but he agreed they couldn't hang at Ichiraku's ramen all the time. With him were his gang for the past 8 years. I can see why a dumbass like you would worry, Naruto. You better pray it comes down to a practical test of our power and not written. Why are the loudest? Most white people usually so dumb. Sasuke jested with that smug smirk. Ninja please. It's not about being worried, it is about being prepared. Something a pampered up ego maniac wouldn't get. Besides, they say the most popular people are dumb. Naruto shot back. Oh damn. A random customer acknowledged Naruto's burn. Naruto snapped and gave a thumbs up in the direction it came from. Whoever it was, they knew they got their props. Easy you too. Can we please just enjoy the nice weather and tasty snacks? Hinata sighed. The two boys ignored her and just glared at each other. Naruto just shrugged and ate some poke. Sasuke gave him a face of disgust and settled for daydreaming. The Nara air had helped him advance in Mystic Flow, MF, in the head. Channeling and allowing LF and MM to flow and build in a certain area helped warriors achieve their feats. Sasuke, whose core personality changed the most of all, was sitting at the booth on the far corner. He didn't eat anything on account they were at a sweets shop and sweets were not his thing. Leave it to Hinata, the sweets queen, to pick a sweets shop. He would get to choose their hangout spot next though. He was leaning towards Ichiraku due to their newest ramen with a tomato paste broth and some meatballs in it for flavor. God damn you, Naruto? Sasuke cursed mentally. How had the blonde convinced him that Ichiraku ramen was a good hangout spot? Probably because of Ayame. While still stoic and aloof, Sasuke became more talkative, even if most of it was sarcasm. He was also kind, especially to the younger Uchiha trolls and Ayame. Outside of that, his skills easily rivaled Naruto's. His use of MLM, mystical lightning magic, was as creative as it was deadly. Sasuke was equipped with lightning darts, LD, lightning reflexes, LR, a lightning defense dome, LDD, and lightning strikes, LS. It was thanks to his affinity for accessing his and others' frequencies he was so skilled. Hyuga saw it differently. They saw nodes and points, specific targets. Uchiha saw the whole picture unfocused. It was like seeing waving lines merging together into one woven fractal, an infinite pattern. Frequencies helped him see the truths of the world. Frequencies, or how LF reacts from person to person, could not lie. It helped him see his comrades were just people, his people. They were strong and there was nothing wrong with surrounding oneself with strong company. Even the pink bombshell was getting strong, he didn't mean her looks either. Sasuke wore a plain black no-sleeve shirt with chainmail underneath. Over that he wore a long-sleeve light gray high-collar haori with the Uchiha symbol displayed proudly on the back and it was opened halfway. He wore a sash that he let the end hang. He finished his outfit with dark violet pants and matching warrior sandals. His medium now showed in the center of his chest, a testament to his skill. Next was Hinata, the Hyuga heiress to be enjoyed her cinnamon rolls almost too much. Even after all the years, watching the usual graceful and docile Hinata moan and scarf down roll after roll was a weirdly funny sight. Not even Choji would attempt to take a piece off the sugary buns. Least his hand get gentle fist tap till it was numb and bloated. Hinata's attire was mostly the same, just tailored to fit her new blooming figure. There was no hiding such a womanly figure, she was at least modest about it. Her hair did grow, but she kept it in a ponytail so it wouldn't get in the way. Something Naruto teased her about, saying she copied Neji's hairstyle. It wasn't her fault, the style was practical for battle. Hinata's crystal medium was Amazonite, one she hid due to its placement on her chest. Her ample bust, chest. It got strength from communication, something she solely lacked, but that was slowly becoming history. She talked more and even stood up for herself at times, rare times, but it happened. Hinata's skills also improved in a weird way. Being a Hyuga troll meant she should excel in MLM. Their gentle fist worked by injecting a type of mystical magic, into their opponents. Most used MLM since it was the most efficient of the mystical trinity, but Hinata struggled using it. Due to having a MWM affinity, MLM was much too difficult for her to use without causing harm to herself. MWM allowed Hinata to use the gentle fist in a unique way. She could actually clog nods with MWM, making someone more sluggish, possibly drowning them if hit in the neck. She even had water needles, WN, for mid-distance. Her preferred use for MWM was cleansing and purification, CAP. MWM allowed her to cleanse a person's bodies of toxins, purify and even enforce someone's LF, and of course the healing of certain wounds. It'll probably be something that requires a lot of work. Shikamaru drooled. He only sighed when he thought more about it. I wish we could do simple written exams. Or just performing 3 basic techniques, but we're not some preteen little brats. Sounds like the good life. Shikamaru added. That was the thing about Shikamaru. He didn't try hard at anything. If it worked, he liked it and spent his time thinking of ways to keep things simple and smooth. He didn't like having to do more than what was necessary, mostly because he was too smart to be bothered. His attire was the same as always. His expression same as always. Yup. From first glance the only thing any outsider would say was Shikamaru got taller. His slothfulness masked a supreme intellect only enhanced by not only his ability with MLM, but his skill in his clan's mystical darkness magic. Possess, MDMP. MDMP allowed the user to control not only their shadows, but the surrounding shadows as well to possess their target. The possession places the target in various degrees of mental or physical paralysis. Only those with strong perseverance can break free. Shikamaru was even privy to mystical darkness magic. Weaver, MDMW. MDMW allowed him to literally gather shadows and then shot them out much like a spider with web. Its effects were still under development. Come on, Shika, that sounds so boring, even coming from you. Besides, how would we survive in the warring world of Winix with such little training? Choji asked. The bulky 16-year-old munched away at his salty snacks. A few he bought from the front counter display racks and some were brought from home. Thank all that was good. Choji ended up ditching his childhood attire. He wore the battle armor accustomed to the Akamichi, which helped his beetle-like wings breathe and move freely. While he may have been the runt of his clan, his fierce determination and loyalty to his clan helped him develop their skill. Solar Earth Magic. Augmentation, SEMA. SEMA allowed the Akamichi to convert the surrounding minerals with their bodies, allowing them to transform into living rocks, boulders, even the size of mountains with enough skill. Hinata took a moment to wipe her mouth of any icing. She saw her group of friends and sighed. Naruto was just a slob. Bless his little heart, but the boy kid would eat. He would eat all the sweets. Sasuke just went into his own little wonderland. Choji ate a mix of outside and the store snacks, which was just rude. Tenten was pretty much one of the guys. She was just cleaning a sidearm shuriken, because why not? Shikamaru just napped, not eating anything. Not even a small piece of candy. It was only the thought he dragged himself there for her that made her restrain her gentle fist-led hand. Maybe I should invite Ino and Sakura next time, Hinata said absent-mindedly. She took another bite from her cinnamon roll, but felt the oddest thing. Something was staring at her with such intensity. You don't even mention their names. Don't you know Ino has this part of Konoha in her gridlock? Just mentioning her name will. Sasuke whispered. Being an MLM user, Sasuke was familiar with the theory behind the Yamanaka's MLM. Gridlock, MLMG. By dispersing MLM in a certain place over enough time, one can have that entire area essentially bugged. Certain keywords trigger a signal to the user. Sasuke-kun, look how strong I got. Ino's voice echoed. Sasuke sent MLM to his ears and tracked Ino via her voice. It was too close for comfort. God damn you, Hinata. Sasuke cursed before he sent MLM to his legs and sped off with enhanced agility. Ino came into the shop not too much later. The teenage girl did bloom as well. Her confidence in herself was matched by her purple attire that showed off just enough of her budding figure to be classy and not slutty. The only thing Ino took more serious than her appearance was her training. Ever since their 5th year in the academy. After being pestered for years, Sasuke finally snapped and told everyone he only wanted to be around strong women. He figured the malnourished, diet-obsessed, beauty queens would never take training seriously. He was right in a way. Sure, plenty of his fangirls tried, but only Ino and Sakura seemed to be able to transition from fangirl to Amazon to be. So while he managed to cut the fangirl base down considerably, he also gave his two biggest fans a reason to get stronger and thus making it much harder to escape. Ino was skilled in the Yamanaka clan's MLM. Mind Disruption, MLMMD. It worked by sending a variety of waves, in Ino's case electromagnetic waves, to a medium and send subliminal messages to suggest and even manipulate a person's mind. Instead of sending their own consciousness into a target, the Yamanaka developed a method to send mental copies of their core conscious instead. The mental clone could manipulate the target and allow the Yamanaka to manipulate them and still be active. It just took a lot of LF to maintain. It also could be blocked by those with strong wills and LF. I could have sworn I heard Sasuke-kun called me. Ino pouted. Just missed him. If you hurry you can probably catch him and challenge him to a duel. Shikamaru yawned. He lifted his head in hopes to see her leave, but alas. Nah, not every day I get to hang here. Besides, you know after these exams the Ino-Shika-Cho trio will be repeated for another generation. We might as well set up a place to chat. Ino stated. Shikamaru just sighed deeply and lowered his head into his arms. Ino sat down next to Hinata and smiled. I tried. Hinata shrugged. Ino ordered Hinata another cinnamon roll, much to the Hyuga heiress' glee. For herself, she ordered pudding. Inishishi. You won't beat me in the battle of love. Oh, it's just you guys. An order of syrup-coated anko dumpling please. Sakura ordered cheerfully. Shikamaru just sighed deeply. Sakura the bombshell was well known for her quick temper and assertiveness. On the flip side, she was warm. Her bat-like wings were even gentle-looking as they could be. She wore a pink battle kimono that stopped at the knees with a white sash. Attached to the sash was Yuki, her sentient weapon in the form of a blank mask. To finish she had red high-heel sandals with chainmail fishnets covering her legs. Sakura and Yuki worked by playing off the other's fatal flaw. Sakura, before entering the academy and finding Yuki, was cowardly and shy. Yuki, before meeting Sakura, was courageous to the point of blind arrogance. Together they humbled one another and then she wore him, her solar fire magic. Cherry Blossom, SFMCB. And SFM. Sakura Bomber, SFMSB, were known to leave lasting damage. Hey Sakura-chan, wanna sit next to me? I can tell you all about the wind, Naruto started. Don't you dare give away our spells you hyperactive brat. Soyokaze berated. Naruto flinched, but Sakura just sat next to Ino and Hinata. The three girls ate and mingled. Tenten sat with the guys and just looked at the three girls. She just didn't understand the appeal. Girls are weird, Tenten said while looking at them intently. The guys just looked at Tenten looking at the girls. Girls were weird indeed. Still, it was a nice piece they enjoyed. They knew that their black and white concepts of right and wrong, truth and lie, sin and virtue were about to get murky and gray. Tenten had already been submerged in it and it showed. The peace they all agreed they would fight to maintain ended far too soon. After the girls had their fill of gossip, Hinata couldn't stomach any more sweetly goodness, and Naruto couldn't stave off his training bug. They all left the dango shop to prepare for the next day. Ino, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Choji all walked home together. Naruto escorted Hinata to the Hyuga estate the best way he knew how. Despite having been flown before, Hinata still couldn't help the feeling of elation she felt. Up there, where the sky is blue, the birds chirped and your worries were beneath you on the ground. They both located towards the Hokage rock, knowing that the next day their fates would be decided in the forest of the great beyond. Both teens opted to not talk. The roar of the wind would most likely silence them anyway. Hinata enjoyed their flights around. She got to ride on his back and feel his wings flap, brushing her with feathers like sunshine. It was also something he only did for her, mostly because Sakura and Tenten always say no, but still. The ride was over too soon. Naruto landed gently far enough away to not draw attention. After spending 8 years around Hyuga, the blonde Uzumaki and Jade Dagger got a pretty good feel for their range. It clearly varied, but they had Neji Hyuga, Hiashi Hyuga, and even Hanabi Byakugan range locked. Thanks for suggesting that place, Hinata-chan. It isn't Ichiraku ramen, but it was a nice change of pace. Get plenty of rest for the fresh exams tomorrow. See ya there. Naruto cheered, before he took off for home. Hinata watched him fly off and smiled. Your infatuation with that urchin is troubling, but that is for the main family to worry about. Let's go, Hinata-sama. Neji said, waiting by the gate. Neji was the reddest of all the Hyuga. His Byakugan was among the highest of caliber. Handcraftily engineered by the prodigy himself based simply on observation of the main family. He wore traditional Hyuga attire in dark gray. Hinata bowed to her older cousin, something that made Neji grumbled along the lines of, I don't need your pity. The two entered the estate and the calming world of prestige and diligence swallowed them whole. They lost their individuality and became the Hyuga heiress and the branch family prodigy. Both respectable titles and yet hollow to them both. Naruto landed in the Uchiha district. He landed on Sasuke's roof. He tapped his heel on it 3 times. Sasuke opened a window and the blonde Uzumaki flew in. Would you stop being a baby and just spar with them already? Naruto asked. It was embarrassing that his arch-rival ran away from a fight period. Amazon or warrior. Granted, he wouldn't go picking a fight with Sakura or Ino, but if challenged, well, who was he to run away? I tried that approach. The first few spars were easy enough. They were sticks back then. After a few years though, Sasuke shivered. To prove his point, he activated his Sharingan 1.0 code. The infamous spinning wheel flashed and colored his onyx eyes blood red. He didn't stop there. He used his Sharingan-granted photogenic memory and MLM to project the incident leading up to their activation. It showed Sasuke having to constantly be on the move to avoid Ino's mental clones and her laser beams. It was tricky keeping track of Ino in the blitz of lights. A sudden increase in heat was Sasuke's only warning, before a Yuki Sakura swooped in, flaming mask and fists ablaze in pink fire. Yuki Sakura's swings were wild, but laced with heated Sakura petal-like sparks. Sasuke found it harder to just evade them both, so he unleashed his MLM LDD in a burst of purple lightning. Ino leapt away, but Sakura surprised him. She ran through and endured the shockwave almost unimpeded. Sakura's favorite SFMCB, engulfing her fist in a flaming orb the size of his head, was Ed back ready to strike. The sheer heat from her spells singed and burned his face before it even got close. To add on to the stress, Ino had shot him with one of her lasers. It stunned him to the point he knew he wouldn't be able to dodge. The stress brought on by seeing a flaming masked embodiment of courage with its flaming fist primed to strike triggered a chemical in Sasuke's brain. His vision blurred, Sharingan 1.0 activated. Yuki's mask cracked when Sakura gazed into Sasuke's spinning Sharingan with a single tomo. That moment of doubt was all Sasuke needed. He shook off his stun and threw LD at Sakura, rushed her in her stunned state, and thrust the flaming girl into Ino with the LDD. Satisfied, Sasuke called the spar to end. Yes, I finally activated my Sharingan. I can't believe you two actually pushed me beyond even my training stress levels. Your skill has indeed improved. You two proved me wrong. Bravo, I am rarely wrong. Sasuke admitted. The Uchiha deactivated his Sharingan and ended the memory. That moment of weakness cost me dearly. Now they keep challenging me to spars. After seeing that, you are the smarter one. Keep running and pray we get teamed up with Hinata-chan. Naruto said. Sasuke chuckled, we can't be that lucky. Both teens laughed. It was light, refreshing in what would have otherwise been dark loneliness. Wanting to be up early, they did their signature goodbye. A wind-infused fist crashing against a lightning-enhanced one. Both cancelled the other out. Amal. Naruto jested, combining emo and troll in what he thought was funny. No one laughed. He decided to wait for an audience. Fairy. Sasuke smirked. Amaterasu burn. Some called out from the distance. Thank you, thank you. It is cliché, but just has the fire. Sasuke bragged. Naruto growled, cheating bastard. Projecting his voice, Naruto walked the empty streets of the Uchiha district. He often walked past the old Uchiha police department. The silence used to bug him, but he found it oddly refreshing. Just being able to walk and enjoy his home village. No one to glare or ignore. Naruto took these silent nights to let his wings rest for another day of flying. His AoE was literally all around the district, excluding Sasuke's sector, which they agreed would be left alone so he could build lightning rods. He expanded his senses to an almost out-of-body experience level. His SWM carried his will through the area and let him feel for any foreign LF. He found none. I loved this place. Looking at the remains of that treacherous abominable clan would bring tears to my eyes if I could shed them anymore. Kyuubi truly rejoiced. Seeing Madara Uchiha's rotting corpse was the only thing that could top it. Naruto just ignored the Biju. Soyokaze kept that part of their share soul space too fogged for Naruto to enter. All that came from the bottom plane, boiler room, was that deep and shrewd roar. Then again, I expected it to happen sooner. You spawn are all so simple. So stupid almost by design, no matter the breed. Hateful, arrogant, pretentious. The Kyuubi roared. What did some Phi runt know? Nothing. If the greatest of Biju was forced to be inside the brat, at half soul, he would voice his displeasures. Naruto felt the booming headache the Biju's roar brought, but did an impressive job of ignoring it. You spawn are all the same. Soon you too will seek my power. A power no mere mortal could ever hope to grasp without us, Biju. Kyuubi roared. Naruto had already made it home, showered, and finally got in bed. He just wanted to unwind. Look, I don't want you in me any more than you want to be in there. Don't care how it sounds. If it makes you feel better, I won't use your oh so great power. Whatever it takes to just end the bickering. Naruto sighed mentally. When he slept, he usually came to his soul space to bond with Soyokaze. It was mostly watching her relive her glory days. Naruto saw Soyokaze being wielded by her first wielder. The shapeless man may have been forgotten in time, but their battles were eternal. Naruto woke up before dawn, eager to begin his journey to the Forest of the Great. He got ready as swiftly as he could and rushed out. He flew over Konoha, seeing hundreds of eager Phi warriors to be flew by too. Some with feathered wings, some with bug wings, others with bat wings. The area behind Konoha's famous Hokage rock, the Forest of the Great Beyond, was created by the first with his fabled solar earth magic. Woodkeeper, SEMWK. That combined with his SEM, World of Trees, Semwat, created much of the infrastructure of the village, but said forest was the heartwood. After the first Hokage's death, the forest still continued to grow. Still bred new life in all manners of ways. The second Hokage saw the potential and established a border unseen by non-warriors. He cultivated the area in his late brother's stead. Before his demise, the second shared with his student, the third Hokage, his findings of the forest and the potential benefits and drawbacks it could have. The third then studied the forest and deemed it too risky. After all the work he put to ban sentient weapons to kill unworthy wielders, the third Hokage thought the Forest of the Great Beyond was too much too soon. When he finally stepped down, he passed his findings to the fourth. In his time, the fourth was able to develop 7 different training districts deep within and powered by the forest. Each training district bred and kept the fabled warlock beasts. Warlock beasts produced the warrior's silk, which only a true warrior can obtain. Amazons obtained Amazon silk from witch beasts. Each training district had silks catered to a warrior, Amazon's needs. Should it be protection from opposing elements or enhancing one's own element? Welcome students, to the Forest of the Great Beyond. We are in the central hub. In the center before you is the main matrix that connects the hub to the sealed lairs of the 6 beasts. Iruka and a group of other instructors explained. They did their jobs as best they could. They fostered and honed their skills for 8 years. Some warriors, Red Mizuki, found no true joy in teaching. Once the brats were placed on teams, they would be on their way of grinding the ranks same as him. Some might achieve elite if they are skilled enough, but the majority will be faceless cannon fodder. It came as no surprise when he outright quit teaching and rejoined the warrior ranks. No one really heard from him after that. In the center of the hub was a giant ceiling matrix array. It had 6 matrices focused around certain elements. SFM was first. MWM was second. MLM was third. SEM was fourth. MDM was fifth and SWM was sixth. Each matrix opens a portal that takes you to one of the 6 lairs of the beast. Your objective is to obtain their silks by any means. You must sign this waiver and wear these suits. Good luck to you all. Iruka explained. He looked at all the students he had personally trained for 8 years with great pride. The 101 students all gathered around the sealing matrix eager to obtain their warrior, Amazon silks. Naruto and his friends decided to not seek each other out. It was a personal test for each of them. Naruto looked at the 6th layer of wind. There was no description for any of the layers besides their element. I believe it would be best to go to the 1st layer of fire. Having protection against fire would be better than stronger SWM. Soyokaze suggested. Naruto could agree to that. He hated how his AoE and even his bow would be used against him with SFM. He also liked the idea of going into the fire layer as a SWM Phi. He got in the line for the fire layer and was surprised to see Sakura in line as well. He wanted to shout out and get her attention, but he saw her look of determination and for once followed her lead. When it was his turn, Naruto was instructed to place his hand on the seal matrix and add some of his LF to it. He needed to make sure he did not add too much natural energy, otherwise it would turn to SWM and probably set him on fire. The blonde Phi took calming breaths to focus his raging LF. He focused on his physical energy, PE, preparing his body for the journey ahead. He channeled his spiritual energy, SE, opening his mind to such impossibilities. He balanced them both with Ne to protect him from the elements and placed his hand on the matrix. His LF activated the matrix and opened the portal that swiftly whisked away to a hellish terrain. Brimstone was scorched with flames, making the ground too hot for anyone not accustomed to such heats. The SFM-5 fared much better than the warlocks, witches who were either forced to expend MWM just to stay or were completely rejected out. Just entering the lair was hell enough, already eliminating a good few. That was when it came stampeding at them. A hulking beast with red and leathery skin engulfed in yellow flames of its own will. It rode in with the legs of a stallion and bulldozed through any too slow to evade. Poor souls were incinerated swiftly. It used its strong orange tail to swat away any too close, also lighting them ablaze in crimson fire. I am Balrog the Infernal. Those seek the infernal silk must answer to me, but wait. Balrog introduced, before something caught his attention. He snaked out and caught a sliver of SWM. He inhaled it and eyes bore down on Naruto. It is rare for a SWM Phi to step into my lair. Let's have some fun, shall we? Balrog grinned. Balrog let out a roar that put everyone on edge. Naruto wasted no time. He crashed both of Soyokaze's 2 daggers together and formed a butterfly sword. He twirled it like a bow staff and used SWM to propel him up and evade the swift flaming steed that was Balrog. Not to be deterred, Balrog kept on crashing. Most got of the way, but some tried to use MWM or SEM to slow him down. He plowed through regardless and sent them to the inferno with literal arms made of pure crimson fire. It fought off the onslaught of waving waters of various colors and substances and earth projectiles with its bull-like body and massive arms, totaling 4, 2 of which were made of fire. Balrog laid waste to the weaker and inexperienced warriors-to-be. He swatted them aside along with their meager defenses and offenses. He crushed them underneath his massive fists, and walked over them like the bugs many of them looked like with their wings. All the while, searching for the SWM Phi. He didn't have to wait long. With sweat dripping from his brow, Naruto swung his butterfly sword and unleashed an air slash wave. Unfortunately, it burst into flames before it even reached Balrog, who simply bit and swallowed the incoming fire. I was beginning to worry I had eliminated you without realizing it. Try not to bore me. Balrog challenged. The hulking beast set its sights on Naruto, who was honestly frozen by fear. To see the beast literally devour his attack so easily. It was unlike anything he had faced. Not even Soyokaze could snap him out of it. All his magic was more harmful than good. Balrog rushed the blonde Phi before he could recover. With a swat of his flaming arm, he clotheslined the Uzumaki Phi across the chest. All the wind was knocked out of him and set on fire. He was sent crashing into a rock pillar. It crumbled on top of him. Balrog just huffed in boredom. He stalked towards the recovering Naruto. He was slightly disappointed at the SWM Phi, but he would end it soon. Moruyuki, Sakura declared. She came out of nowhere, body lit ablaze in pink flames. She slammed her fist into Balrog's face with all her might. Balrog didn't even flinch. He simply swung her off with a simple turn of his hulking face. He used his 3 claws to catch Sakura by the mask. "We're in trouble," Yuki admitted. Balrog slammed the pink bombshell into the scorching ground. It easily buried her in a crater, but added to his onslaught by unleashing a barrage of fists on her. Yuki tried to protect them, but it was too much. He cracked under the pressure literally. "Goodbye, little fly," Balrog stated. He rose one of his hooves over the beaten Sakura. Sakura somehow survived, but she wasn't getting up anytime soon. Naruto snapped out of his stupor. "Will you listen to me now? I need your absolute focus." He would do whatever it took to protect Sakura. To protect his big sister. Soyokaze used her 25% to channel SWM into Naruto's eyes. His eyes took a green tint, awakening a sight beyond sight. He could see a kind of point? "That is the oxygen point. Not time, just cut it now," Soyokaze declared. Naruto wasted no time. He flew with wings aided by SWM lit aflame. He flapped his wings hard enough to molt feathers, that took the brunt of his fire. Balrog stomped down on Sakura, but was blocked by a bow that blew the flames away. The recoil did cancel out the BOE. "You got a little fight after. That is good. I quite enjoy breaking the willful types." Balrog grinned. Naruto stood between the recovering Sakura, who was at least on a knee, with Soyokaze's butterfly sword at the ready. "Soyokaze, where did the dots go? Did I lose my vision?" He couldn't see them anymore. "No, his flames just got hotter." Soyokaze gulped. Naruto gulped with her. Sakura had recovered and managed to hold most of Yuki together. Meanwhile, inside the lightning lair, Sasuke's Sharingan panicky tried to keep up with the flashing lights and firing missiles. He didn't even know what those were until he stepped inside the Mad Mirror House light show. Vancelot the Advanced truly earned his title. An automaton that could summon all manners of weaponry from within secret and hidden panels throughout his body. Many trolls and warlocks, witches met a swift end by chainsaws, laser beams, and the before-mentioned explosive missiles. No one could so much as scuff Vancelot. Sasuke's arm was completely numb and paralyzed, hanging limply. It was only thanks to his eyes he stood any chance of survival. This is futile. So many stepped in, so unprepared. Failure results in deletion. Vancelot monotone. Ino and a few warlocks fared better. They were able to evade the lasers, simply by firing their own lasers at mirrors at the right angles. All the lights and his inexperience with the Sharingan made for one horrific experience. It was too much to focus on. Sasuke saw a missile locked in on him. He shot a burst of purple MLM to stop its momentum and tried to deactivate it. It stopped it, but it still detonated when it struck the ground. The force blew Sasuke back. Ino tried to catch him, but she just slammed into the wall with him. The stress was too much for Sasuke's mind to bear. Sharingan 1.5, his vision blurred briefly, which wasn't helped when he was struck by a zapping laser beam. Which would you prefer? Chainsaws, lasers, flail. I have various kinds of missiles. I have lightning missiles, exploding missiles, adhesive missiles. Vancelot ranted. Both Ino, Sasuke, and a few warlocks recovered and refused to give in. The once two-armed automaton revealed each of the missiles he mentioned and then some. A lot of that bravado left them. Meanwhile, in the water lair, Hinata had to use every brain cell to focus on not drowning. She literally had to force Levivua's green MWM away from her face. Ignoring the fact the entire lair was flooded with her sweat. Levivua the Suppressor, a slithery beast with purple scales and sweats green water said to be her pure LF. The waters were completely under her control. She slithered through the green depths with such swiftness, many ended up in a watery grave. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.